Chapter 1547. Seeing that Lin Su had left, Yi Xian also turned to leave. If they were to fight, these people really wouldn't be his match. But it was completely unnecessary. He didn't want to be used by this woman. At this moment, Fang Shui suddenly stood in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian frowned slightly. He really didn't have a good impression of this woman. To be honest, he really wanted to cut this woman down with his sword. This woman used him as a shield, completely not considering his life or death. Think about it, if he was an ordinary person, what would the result be? He would definitely die. Previously, he had already felt the killing intent from Lin Su's eyes. Fang Shui glanced at Yi Xian, still angry. Yi Xian was expressionless. Move aside. Fang Shui said softly, I really didn't know you liked men. Just as Yi Xian was about to speak, Fang Shui suddenly approached Yi Xian and grinned. Actually, I think what you said is very right. Yi Xian frowned slightly. What's very right? Fang Shui blinked. The opposite sex is only for reproduction, the same sex is true love. Yi Xian was speechless. Fang Shui looked around, then said softly, Actually, I like women. Hearing this, Yi Xian was dumbfounded. F***ck, this is really F***king explosive. Fang Shui sighed softly, unfortunately, no one can understand me. Saying that, she looked at Yi Xian, is it wrong to like women? Yi Xian was speechless. Fang Shui suddenly said, Yang Xian, you're not an ordinary person, right? Yi Xian looked at Fang Shui, what do you mean? Fang Shui said seriously, when you faced me and Lin Su, there was no fear in your eyes. There's only one explanation, and that is you have confidence. So, you're definitely not an ordinary person. Yi Xian smiled, I'm just an ordinary person. Miss, I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave. Saying that, he turned around and left. He did not want to provoke this woman. She seemed to be in her rebellious phase. It was better not to provoke her. Fang Shui didn't stop Yi Xian. She looked at Yi Xian's back as he left, deep in thought. After Yi Xian left, he immediately found an empty courtyard. In the courtyard, he sat cross-legged on the ground and said in a deep voice, Little heir, can you predict what will happen to me next? Xiao heir, yes. Yi Xian quickly asked, what's going to happen to me next? Xiao heir said, you will be enlightened after this, and immediately reach the level of a true mortal sword. Hearing this, Yi Xian was overjoyed. Are you kidding me? Xiao heir said indifferently, you were the one who joked with me first. Please, if I could predict the future, would I have ended up like this? Yi Xian's expression froze. After a short while, he said, aren't many extraordinary experts able to predict what will happen in the future? Xiao heir said, some experts who have reached a certain level can predict what will happen in the future. However, it's absolutely impossible for them to predict in detail. They can only predict the general situation. Moreover, it depends on the situation. For example, if the tribulation or the person related to the tribulation is too strong, then they won't be able to predict it. For example, that big brother of yours. He's not tainted by any karma. If he wants to kill someone, then the person who is killed will not be able to predict anything related to your big brother. Hearing this, Yi Xian said softly, I understand. Xiao heir continued, the future is uncertain, and it's exactly because of this that a person's life is meaningful. If a person's future is destined, then what's the point of his life? Yi Xian said softly, I thought that the Cosmos Court would make every single person's life. This chapter is not finished, please continue to the next page. A person's fate is already determined. Xiao heir said, we're not that strong. What we protect is the order of the universe. Whether it's us or the universal laws, we're the guardians of the order of the universe. As for the Tao of destiny that you mentioned, everyone's destiny is actually different, and it's not fair. For example, some people are born with wealth. Their starting point is the end point that some ordinary people can't reach in their entire lives. Of course, it's not absolute. There are many people who can change their destiny through their own hard work. Therefore, everyone's destiny is determined at birth, but the future is not. Yi Xian asked, is there a destiny law? Xiao Er said, yes. The second is the destiny law. Yi Xian was a little curious. What about the first? Xiao Er said calmly, guess. Yi Xian's face darkened. Guess my ass. Xiao Er said, the duty of the destiny law is to protect the order of destiny and not let others control their own destiny. However, she's also injured now. Her power of law can no longer protect the Tao of destiny of this vast universe. Yi Xian frowned slightly. The destiny law is injured? Who did it? Xiao Er said coldly, you did it. Your sister did it. Yi Xian, Xiao Er's voice became colder. When that mysterious person forcibly reincarnated, not only did he injure the reincarnation law, but he also injured the destiny law and the karma law. Not only did he jump out of the order of the destiny law, but he also controlled the fate of that life. No, I should say, he implicated that life of yours. At this point, she suddenly sneered, however, this guy's luck is also bad. I guess he never dreamed that you have a sister who is even more heaven-defying than him. Your sister forcibly saved you and suppressed him. This guy is really bloody unlucky. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, Xiao Er, that mysterious person can also defy the laws of the universe. My sister Qing can also defy the laws of the universe. Who is stronger? Xiao Er said coldly, do you still need to ask this question? Yi Xian was a little puzzled. What do you mean? Xiao Er said, the one who lives well is stronger. Yi Xian was stunned, then shook his head with a smile. It was obvious that Qing was strong. Yes. If Qing was not strong, the one who should be suppressed should be her. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian asked again, Xiao Er, from what you said, that mysterious person is also very strong. He can actually defy the laws of the universe. Xiao Er was silent for a moment, then said, he is the first person to defy the laws of the universe. Yi Xian asked, do you know his identity? Xiao Er said lightly, I don't know. Yi Xian blinked, actually, in that case, you and I are both victims. Since we are all victims, why do we hurt each other? Isn't it better for us to join forces to kill that mysterious person? Xiao Er said angrily, we are the victims. You are not a victim. Your sister and that father of yours are worse than that mysterious person, especially your sister. She defied the laws of the universe more than that mysterious person. Not only does she want to defy the laws of the universe, she also wants to kill the laws of the universe. Yi Xian was speechless. If you don't mess with me, Qing will not target you. Xiao Er suddenly said, why don't you come with me to the Cosmos God Court to plead guilty? Let's settle this peacefully. Yi Xian blinked and said with a smile, sure. Xiao Er quickly said, are you sure? Yi Xian smiled, I will bring my brother and Qing there, we will settle this peacefully. Xiao Er's expression instantly turned cold. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly raised his head. In the sky, there was a powerful, this chapter is not finished, please flip the page, the aura spread over. At this moment, Xiao Er's expression changed greatly, not good. That woman is using the misfortune law to find you. She is forcefully sensing the misfortune law. If she can sense it, she can use the misfortune law to find you. Because in this world, you are currently the only misfortune body. Wherever the power of the law of calamity is, it's definitely where you are. Yi Xian's expression sank. Do you have any solution? Xiao Er was silent for a moment, said, call your brother here. Yi Xian, Xiao Er said, it is not too late to call him now. Yi Xian smiled bitterly, I want to call him too, but I don't know where he went. Xiao Er was stunned, then said, you can't contact him? Yi Xian nodded, he can contact me, but I can't contact him. Xiao Er said angrily, just wait for your death. Yi Xian spread his hands, if this woman finds me, do you think she will let you off? Xiao Er was furious, you think I am afraid of her? Yi Xian blinked. Miss Xiao Air, of course you are not afraid of her, but you are still being suppressed. If that woman takes advantage of you, what will you do? In the World Prison Pagoda, Xiao Air's expression was extremely ugly. Take advantage of me? That woman will definitely take advantage of me and humiliate me. Thinking of this, Xiao Air's expression became even uglier. Yi Xian hurriedly said, quickly think of a way. Xiao Air was expressionless. What else can I do? Just screw her and be done with it. Xiao Air blinked. Can the two of us beat her? Xiao Air said coldly, even if we can't beat her, we have to. Yi Xian was speechless, listening to this woman. She might not be able to beat her. Yi Xian thought for a moment, then said, why don't you help me stall her? I will go find reinforcements. Xiao Air sneered, let me tell you, if we live together, if we die together. Do as you see fit. Yi Xian, Xiao Ta suddenly said, Xiao Air, are you going to live and die with the young master? Wow, don't tell me you like the young master. Xiao Air suddenly flew into a rage, stupid door, shut up. Xiao Ta floated to the 9th floor, it chuckled, come and hit me then. Yi Xian, soon, a series of explosions rang out in the prison pagoda. Yi Xian was about to speak. At this moment, Xiao Air suddenly stopped. She suddenly looked up. After a moment, her eyes narrowed slightly. Someone is helping you resist the disaster law. Yi Xian hurriedly said, who? Is it my big brother? Xiao Air shook her head. No, if it was your big brother, he would have chopped that woman with a sword. What's the point of blocking? Yi Xian frowned slightly. Then who could it be? Xiao Air said solemnly, it's not a person, the other party is using an array to help you resist. A trace of confusion flashed in Yi Xian's eyes. Array? Xiao Air looked at Yi Xian. You really don't know? Yi Xian shook his head. I don't know. Xiao Air glanced at Yi Xian, silent. This guy doesn't look like he's lying. Just how many helpers does this guy have? Fuck. Endless helpers. In the starry sky, Mu Xiaodao raised his head, his expression cold. Who is resisting the power of the disaster law? Do they not want to live? After a moment of silence, a voice came from the endless starry sky. Undying Emperor Clan, please kill me. End of this chapter. Chapter 1548. Undying Emperor Clan? Yi Xian was dumbfounded. Which faction was this? At this moment, Xiao Air said softly, why would this clan help you block the disaster laws? Yi Xian asked quickly, Xiao Air, do you know this clan? Xiao Air said after a moment of silence, they are known as the #1 clan in the universe. At this point, she frowned, you don't know them? Yi Xian shook his head, I don't. Xiao Air said after a moment of silence, damn. I almost forgot about the bloodline in your body, you are from the Undying Emperor clan. Yi Xian, at this moment, Xiao Air said, run. Yi Xian looked up at the sky, the Undying Emperor clan can't stop this woman? Xiao Air said angrily, stop my ass. The Undying Emperor clan is in the 9-dimensional universe, which is several universes away from here. How can they stop this woman? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then turned and ran. At this moment, Yi Xian was extremely shocked. The 9-dimensional universe. There really was a 9-dimensional universe. He couldn't understand why a faction in the 9-dimensional universe would protect him. Could it be his mother's clan? But Duge Xian was just an ordinary woman. Moreover, Duge Xian didn't seem to have the bloodline of the Undying. Could it be that his birth parents were someone else? Thinking of this, Yi Xian felt a headache. He almost couldn't figure out whose son he was. In the starry sky, Mu Xiaodao looked at the depths of the starry sky, his eyes cold. Undying Emperor clan. In the depths of the starry sky, a figure condensed. It was the patriarch of the Undying Emperor clan, Dongli Jing. Void projection. And his body was several universes away in the 9-dimensional universe. Dongli Jing looked at Mu Xiaodao, his expression calm, law protector. Mu Xiaodao smiled, What, your undying emperor clan wants to protect this youth called Yi Xian? Dongli Jing said calmly, so what? Unyielding. The undying emperor clan had existed for millions of years. Other than that time when they met the green-robed man, they had never been afraid. Although they were wary of the Cosmos God Court, they weren't afraid. Of course, a large part of the reason for this confidence was because of the green-robed man. This Yi Xian not only possessed the bloodline of the undying imperial clan, he also possessed the bloodline of the green-clothed man. In other words, the undying imperial clan was standing together with the green-clothed man. So what if I am? A cold smile appeared on Dongli Jing's face. It seems like your undying imperial clan has been very arrogant these past few years. As soon as she finished speaking, she opened her palm, and the flying dagger in her hand flew out. Chi! In the distance, Higashi Yasushi's projection vanished, but the flying dagger didn't stop. It pierced through the starry sky, and wherever it passed, space was annihilated inch by inch. Even the cosmic barrier couldn't stop it. In just a few breaths of time, the flying knife had already arrived in the sky above the undying world of the nine-dimensional universe. Then, it struck the undying blood array. Boom! The entire undying blood formation trembled violently and then was annihilated inch by inch. The flying dagger had already disappeared. The expressions of the experts from the undying imperial clan turned unsightly when they witnessed this scene. Higashi Yasushi suddenly said in a cold voice, "I'll go meet her. All of you, reconstruct the formation. You must help him block the laws of calamity." As soon as she finished speaking, she took a step forward and pulled her hands forward. Hiss! The space in front of her was torn apart by her hands, and then she stepped into the spatial rift and vanished in the blink of an eye. After Higashi Yasushi left, Dongli Zhua suddenly said, "Reconstruct the formation." It didn't take long for another grand formation to rise slowly from within the undying imperial clan. The Kiliacosm. Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and a flying dagger flew back into her hand. At this moment, her expression was extremely gloomy. She'd almost found Yi Xian just now. However, she'd been stopped by the undying imperial clan. The undying imperial clan. Mu Xiaodao was quite puzzled. Why would this ancient clan suddenly help Yi Xian? After a moment of silence, Mu Xiaodao turned around and glanced around. She didn't sense the auras of Yi Xian or Xiao Er. They've escaped again. Mu Xiaodao suddenly raised her palm into the sky. In the next moment, a ray of red light shot into the sky and shot into the starry sky. On the other side, within Yi Xian's body, Xiao Er suddenly said, "Not good. That woman is calling for the Universe Enforcer." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Universe Enforcer?" Xiao Er said solemnly, "Yes. Within the Universe God Court, there's a mysterious team called the Universe Enforcer. They frequently patrol the universe and specifically kill those who destroy the order of the universe. For example, those who reincarnate and are reborn." Yi Xian asked, "Are they powerful?" Xiao Er said, "With your current strength, you can barely become a Universe Enforcer." Yi Xian's expression darkened. This woman called Mu Xiaodao is actually calling for people. She's too shameless. Xiao Er said coldly, "Although I don't like that woman, please, when it comes to calling for people, who can compare to you, young Master Yi?" Yi Xian was speechless. Yi Xian didn't continue bickering with this woman. He looked around and said, "Miss Xiao Er, where do we escape to?" Xiao Er said, "We can't escape." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Xiao Er said solemnly, "You can't fly a sword, and you can't use Xian Qi. Otherwise, that woman will immediately sense you." Yi Xian's expression was a little ugly. "So I can only wait for death?" After a moment of silence, Xiao Er said, "Can you help me remove the sword Qi that swordsman left in between my eyebrows?" Yi Xian blinked. "No." What a joke. The reason why this woman was standing with him now was because she was currently weaker and couldn't beat the woman who played with knives. If this guy recovered his strength, needless to say, he would definitely be twinned. Xiao Er said calmly, then I have no other way. Think of a way yourself. Yi Xian thought about it and said, Miss Xiao Er, what's the personality of this woman who plays with knives? Xiao Er laughed coldly. What? Do you want to use your shamelessness to defeat her? Yi Xian laughed embarrassedly. I'm just asking. After all, as my enemy, I should at least understand her personality, right? Xiao Er said flatly, don't think about all that fancy stuff. This woman isn't as stupid as you think. You're dreaming if you want to deceive her. Yi Xian was speechless. Before he knew it, Yi Xian had arrived at a mountain range. Actually, he was slightly panicking because the law of disaster was too mysterious. It caused trouble at the slightest provocation. Suddenly, the sounds of battle resounded from afar. Yi Xian's expression instantly changed when he witnessed this, and he immediately turned around and left. Meanwhile, the door of disaster suddenly roared angrily, hurry up. Yi Xian said furiously, go my ass. Little Ernie, can you talk to the misfortune law and tell it not to play like this? If you have the ability, then fight me openly. Why are you doing such despicable things? Xiao Er said coldly, are you sure you want her to come over and fight you in person? Yi Xian blinked. Can she come over? Xiao Er said calmly, her law of disaster is on you. What do you think? Yi Xian was speechless. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said, young master, don't be a coward. There's nothing to be afraid of. We'll just fight. The corners of Yi Xian's mouth twitched. *CK, he really wanted to beat this Xiao Ta to death. At this moment, an explosion suddenly came from afar. The next moment, a figure rushed out from the dense forest in the distance. It was a young man in his 20s. His body was covered in injuries, and it was obvious that he had experienced a huge battle. The young man staggered toward Yi Xian. He was about to speak when he spat out a mouthful of blood. Yi Xian turned around and left. His instincts told him that something bad had happened. Damn it. Right at this moment, the young man suddenly strode forward and grabbed the young man. Brother. Yi Xian was speechless. The young man withdrew a spatial ring and stuffed it into Yi Xian's hand. His voice trembled as he said, brother, do me a favor and send this to the southern city's Shao family. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he said, I'm in a very difficult position. The young man hurriedly said, no, I won't help you for nothing. As he spoke, he withdrew a huge pile of crystals and placed them in front of Yi Xian. Brother, do me this favor, and all of these are yours. Moreover, the eldest young miss will reward you handsomely. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he withdrew a spatial ring. Have a look. The young man glanced at it, and he was stunned in the next moment. There were hundreds of millions of top-grade energy crystals in the spatial ring, and they were all of the highest quality. The young man gulped. Brother. Yi Xian gazed at the young man and spoke seriously, brother, I'm not interested in money. The young man felt suffocated, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he clenched his right hand tightly, and a strand of violet energy suddenly appeared in his palm. He could save this man's life. Meanwhile, Xiao Er suddenly said, I advise you not to save him. If you do, then something bad will definitely happen. Because if you save him, then it'll be a cause, and this cause will definitely be a bad cause. Yi Xian spoke solemnly in his heart, what if I don't save him? Xiao Er fell silent for a moment before she said, not saving him is also a bad cause. Something bad will definitely happen as well. Yi Xian was furious in his heart. Damn it. Xiao Er, tell me, is the law of disaster doing things to humans? She's forcing an innocent girl to become a prostitute. Xiao Er fell silent. She felt that doing this was going a bit too far. Xiao Er was shocked when she thought up to this point. How could I have such a thought? I'm the protector of the law of disaster. I should be steadfast in protecting the law of disaster. Outside, Yi Xian fell silent. Damn it. I can't save him, but I can't not save him either. At this moment, the young man slowly collapsed to the ground. He handed the storage ring to Yi Xian and begged, "Brother, this is extremely important to my Shao family. Please help me," and, as he spoke, he took out another storage ring and handed it to Yi Xian. "This is my life savings. Please give it to my younger sister. Her name is Shao Ling, younger sister." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression changed slightly. He no longer hesitated and opened his palm. A strand of purple gas floated into the young man's body. Boom! In an instant, the injuries all over the young man's body began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Within the prison pagoda, Xiao Er fell silent. She did not know what would happen next. The young man was a bit dazed. He looked at Yi Xian in disbelief. "Brother," Yi Xian said, "send it back yourself now." After saying this, he turned and left. The young man was stunned. He looked at Yi Xian, who was leaving in the distance. No one knew what he was thinking. In the distant mountain range, Yi Xian glanced at the surroundings and smiled. "There doesn't seem to be a problem." Xiao Er said indifferently, "There will definitely be a problem." Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then he said, "Do you think I did anything wrong?" Xiao Er said, "What are you trying to say?" Yi Xian smiled. "Xiao Er, let's have a good chat. Do you think I did anything wrong by saving him?" Xiao Er replied with a question. "What if that man is an evil person?" Yi Xian fell silent. Xiao Er said, "There are two sides to everything. Most of the time, the good deeds you do might not be really good. Moreover, I have to remind you that good deeds might not necessarily be rewarded in this world. In the Milky Way world, people who do good deeds are often extorted." Yi Xian blinked. "You know about the Milky Way world as well?" Xiao Er said indifferently, "Of course I do. However, the Cosmos God Court doesn't manage it." Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. "Why? Don't you manage the entire universe?" After a moment of silence, Xiao Er said, "That place is a little special." "A little special?" Yi Xian was a little curious. "How special?" Xiao Er suddenly said angrily, "Why do you have so many questions? Is our relationship very good?" "Huh." Yi Xian. P.S. Hee hee. Chapter 1549. Yi Xian did not ask any more questions. Because he discovered that this woman seemed to be becoming irritable again. A hot-tempered woman. Yi Xian began to speed up his pace. He was quite annoyed because he originally wanted to cultivate a Dao body. With the blood of the horned little girl, it would be very easy for him to cultivate Dao. But the problem was that he did not dare to cultivate at all. He did not know how terrifying Mu Xiaodao was. But he knew how terrifying Little was. At his peak, Little was ridiculously strong. And Mu Xiaodao, who was also a law guardian, was definitely not inferior to Little. Thinking of this, he was even more certain that he could not face Mu Xiaodao head-on. He had to be as wretched as possible. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stopped. He frowned and turned around. Not far away, more than a dozen auras were coming at him. Soon, more than a dozen people appeared in front of Yi Xian. The leader was a woman. She wore a black robe and held a sword in her hand. Beside the woman, there was a young man. Yi Xian recognized this young man. It was the young man he had saved before. Yi Xian's expression sank. They came with ill intentions. The young man smiled and said, "We meet again." Yi Xian smiled and said, "What's the matter?" The young man looked at the woman beside him. The woman walked not far from Yi Xian and said, "You have a kind of purple aura on your body." Yi Xian nodded and said, "Yes." The woman looked straight at Yi Xian and said, "And a lot of crystal stones." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "Sure enough, good karma can also have bad karma. The woman stared at Yi Xian and said, seeing that you saved my clansmen, if you hand it over, I can spare your life. Yi Xian smiled and said, Miss, if I hand it over, you will immediately kill me to eliminate future troubles, right? The woman's eyes narrowed and was about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly said angrily, you bunch of idiots. The woman and the others were dumbfounded by the scolding. Yi Xian angrily pointed at the woman, use your pig brain to think, to be able to have that kind of purple energy and so many crystals, how could an ordinary person be? Would it? Can't you guys grow some brains? Even if you're going to be a bad guy, can't you use your brain a little? Speaking of this, he also felt a little sullen. Damn it. For the first time in history, he hoped that his enemy would be smarter. The woman looked at Yi Xian. Then can you tell me who you are? Yi Xian swiped the ground with his right hand. In an instant, countless treasures appeared in front of him. Among them were some supreme-grade treasures. His executing heaven sword, soul-suppressing sword, violet chi, and supreme-grade energy crystals. In addition, there were countless treasures of heaven and earth. Most of them were spoils of war from the past few years. The expressions of the woman and the others changed violently when they saw those treasures. Any one of these treasures in front of him was priceless. Especially that purple gas and those top-grade energy crystals, the degree of purity. At this moment, the hearts of the woman and the others surged like a tidal wave, and they were extremely shocked. Yi Xian pointed at those treasures. See that? Am I an ordinary person? The woman looked at Yi Xian. At this moment, there was a solemn and fearful expression in her eyes. Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief in his heart when he saw this. Obviously, this woman probably wouldn't make a move. Suddenly, the young man by the woman's side spoke abruptly, eldest young miss, there's only one reason why he said so much, and that's because he's afraid. Yi Xian was speechless. The woman looked at the young man, and the young man looked at Yi Xian and sneered. If he really isn't an ordinary person, then why would he waste his breath on us? He only said so much to scare us away. Yi Xian shook his head speechlessly. Xiao Er suddenly said, hold it, don't do anything. The young man continued, young miss, so many treasures are enough to change the fate of our Xiao family. In time, our Xiao family will definitely become the #1 family in South City. No, it'll become the #1 family in the entire world. Hearing this, the woman and the others instantly felt the blood in their bodies boil. The #1 family in the world. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Yi Xian fell silent. Xiao Er suddenly said, a little impatience will spoil great plans. Hold it. The young man spoke in a deep voice, young miss, riches come from danger. If we do this, our Xiao family will rise completely. As he spoke, he looked at Yi Xian. Moreover, if we give up now, this person might take revenge on our Xiao family in the future. At that time, it'll be even more troublesome. Since that's the case, why don't we kill him now and take his treasures? Yi Xian looked at the young man. I saved you just now. The young man smiled. Did I ask you to save me? As he spoke, he shook his head with a smile. I don't think I asked you to save me, right? Suddenly, the young man's voice stopped abruptly. That was because a hand was gripping his throat. It wasn't Yi Xian. It was Xiao Er. Yi Xian was slightly stunned when he saw Xiao Er suddenly make a move. Xiao Er looked coldly at the young man whose face was filled with terror. Is that what you're saying? I suddenly realized that although that bitch is cheap, she's not disgusting. But you make me extremely disgusted. Fuck you. As she spoke, she slammed the young man to the ground. Bang! The young man's head exploded, and blood sprayed violently. The woman and the others' expressions changed drastically when they saw this scene. Meanwhile, Yi Xian loosened his hand. He wanted to make the first move, but he didn't expect Xiao Er to make the first move. The Xiao family's eldest young miss stared at Xiao Er. You. Who are you? Xiao Er ignored the eldest young miss and turned around to look. Not far away, a woman had appeared out of nowhere. Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao sized up Xiao Er, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Xiao Er. You don't seem to be in a good state. Xiao Er looked at Mu Xiaodao. Give me 15 minutes. Mu Xiaodao smiled. Sure. Xiao Er turned around to look at the Xiao family's eldest young Mississippi. You stupid woman. Are you brainless? That bitch can take out so many treasures at once. Is he an ordinary person? Did your IQ get eaten by a dog? The Xiao family's eldest young miss said in a deep voice, Senior, this is my Xiao family's fault. I apologize to the two of you on behalf of the Xiao family. Apologize? Xiao Er said angrily, I don't accept it. As she spoke, she slapped out. Bang! The Xiao family's eldest young miss was directly destroyed by this slap. Xiao Er slapped out again. In the distance, the Xiao family's experts were directly wiped out by a powerful force. After killing them, Xiao Er clapped her hands. Comfortable. With that, she turned around to look at Mu Xiaodao. Let's begin. Mu Xiaodao's mouth curled up. All right. As she spoke, she opened her palm, and the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out. In the distance, Xiao Er's expression turned sinister. She clapped her hands together, and a blood lightning exploded from her palms. The knife arrived. Bang! The blood lightning exploded apart, and Xiao Er was instantly pushed over 10 kilometers back. Moreover, there was a deep gash on the right side of her face. Yi Xian's expression instantly became extremely solemn when he witnessed this scene. Damn it! This woman with the flying knife isn't just ordinarily ferocious. Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and the flying knife returned to her hand. She gazed at Xiao Er and smiled. Xiao Er, why have you become so weak? Xiao Er wiped off the blood on her face. She didn't waste her breath at all and suddenly vanished on the spot. A blood lightning tore through the surroundings. Mu Xiaodao's eyes narrowed slightly, and she pointed forward with the flying knife in her hand. Bang! An expanse of lightning suddenly erupted in front of Mu Xiaodao, and then a figure retreated explosively. This figure retreated over 30 kilometers away. The person who retreated was Little Er. Xiao Er's pupils constricted when she stopped moving. She suddenly moved to the side, and a cold ray of light flashed past her face. Xiao Er gazed at Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao was looking at her with a spurious smile on her face, and the flying knife was still in her hand. On the other hand, a blood-red mark had appeared on the other side of Xiao Er's face. Mu Xiaodao gazed at Xiao Er and smiled. Xiao Er, I'm really not used to you suddenly becoming so weak. As she spoke, she opened her palm, and the flying knife in her hand suddenly started to spin swiftly. In an instant, the entire heavens and the earth started to become illusory. Watch out for the flying knife. The heavens and the earth can't endure it. Mu Xiaodao gazed at Xiao Er and smiled. Xiao Er, you're going to die after this. Don't worry, I'll let you die with dignity. As she spoke, she was about to attack. However, Yi Xian suddenly said, Wait. Mu Xiaodao gazed at Yi Xian. Do you have a problem with that? Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Miss, I think it's unfair. After all, Miss Xiao Er isn't at her peak right now. Mu Xiaodao blinked. Fair? What's fair? Can it even be eaten? Yi Xian was flabbergasted. Damn it. I've encountered another shameless person. Mu Xiaodao sized up Yi Xian and smiled, one with the body of calamity. You seem to have quite a good relationship with Xiao Er. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Miss, I think that you would definitely feel a lot of regret if you killed Miss Xiao Er just like that, right? After all, she isn't at her peak right now. Mu Xiaodao suddenly shook her head. No, I don't feel any regret at all. Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then he said, I really don't understand. Aren't all of you from the Cosmos Court? Why did you kill each other? As soon as he finished speaking, even he felt that it was quite absurd. Damn it. Isn't it a good thing for the Cosmos Court to kill each other? Mu Xiaodao sized up Yi Xian once more, and then she smiled. Actually, I don't understand it either. She's the guardian of the law of calamity, and you're the body of calamity. How did the two of you get together? At the side, Xiao suddenly spoke angrily. You're the one who got together with him. I have nothing to do with him. Yi Xian nodded. The two of us are innocent. We have nothing to do with each other. Mu Xiaodao blinked. Innocent? I didn't say that the two of you aren't innocent. Yi Xian was speechless. Mu Xiaodao glanced at Yi Xian and Xiao, and then she said, the two of you wouldn't have really gotten together, right? If that's the case, then I'm very shocked. In the distance, Xiao suddenly spoke coldly. Mu Xiaodao, are you trying to kill us with your mouth? Mu Xiaodao looked at Xiao and smiled. All right. No more nonsense. Xiao die. As soon as she finished speaking, the flying dagger in her hand suddenly flew out. In the distance, Xiao pupils constricted, and she pressed her hands together. A blood-red lightning wall suddenly condensed in front of her. The flying dagger arrived. Bang! The blood-red lightning wall trembled violently. In the next moment, the blood-red lightning wall split apart, and the flying dagger flew past Xiao chest. Hiss! A stream of blood sprayed out. P.S. I was late yesterday, so I'll make up for it today. A real man should keep his word. I'm a man. Don't call me AB*TCH. Chapter 1550. The knife pierced through her chest, and Xiao immediately retreated thousands of feet away. As soon as she stopped, blood slowly flowed out from the corner of her mouth. And on her chest, there was a knife wound. A powerful force was crushing the vitality in her body. Xiao hurriedly suppressed the force in her body. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and the flying knife suddenly appeared in her palm. She looked at Xiao and smiled. I won't give you a chance. As she spoke, the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out. In the distance, Xiao stared at the flying knife. She knew that she would definitely die this time. Because if she blocked this flying knife, the force in her body would instantly crush all her vitality. Am I going to die? Xiao slowly closed her eyes. She was somewhat unwilling to die like this. Because this was not her peak state. She was unwilling. But, she was powerless. At this moment, she suddenly opened her eyes. In front of her, stood a man. It was Yi Xian. Seeing Yi Xian blocking in front of her, Xiao was stunned. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly flew in front of her, and the next moment, countless purple gas surged towards her like a tide. Yi Xian stared at the flying knife. Hurry up and heal. I'll help you block it. As he spoke, he directly rushed out. Fight. Have you seen Mu Xiaodao before? He was very clear that he couldn't beat him. But, he must fight. Because once Xiao died, Mu Xiaodao's target would be him, Yi Xian. If he saved Xiao and the two of them joined forces, there would still be a chance of survival. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly pulled out his sword and stabbed. Sword domain plus sword of life and death. This was his current strongest sword. The sword stabbed out. Boom! In front of Yi Xian, the sword light shattered, and he instantly retreated thousands of feet away. Just as he stopped, crack! The executing heaven sword in his hand directly cracked. Not only that, his whole body instantly cracked into a spider web, especially his face. At a glance, it was extremely terrifying. One blow almost destroyed his soul. Yi Xian took a deep breath. This woman was really King terrifying. Why were all the women he met so terrifying? In the distance, Mu Xiaodao glanced at Yi Xian. This sword is actually a mortal sword. Interesting. If this sword wasn't an ordinary sword, Yi Xian would definitely die. Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and then turned to look at little Air, who was not far away. At this moment, little Air had recovered a lot with the help of the violet chi, but he still needed some time. Mu Xiaodao suddenly laughed and said, "Looks like your relationship is really deep." Then she looked at Yi Xian. "Take another knife attack from me." As soon as she finished speaking, she opened her palm and the flying sword suddenly flew out. When the saber was unleashed, the entire world seemed to have quietened down. Between heaven and earth, there was only the tearing sound of the saber. In the distance, Yi Xian's pupils suddenly shrank when he saw this strike. Invincible. That was the only thought left in his mind. Flee. As soon as this thought appeared, it was rejected by Yi Xian, and a wisp of viciousness flashed in his eyes. Flee, my ass. Even if I die, I'll die with dignity. He took a step forward and stabbed with his sword. This strike was still a sword of life and death. Moreover, he'd forgotten about life and death when this strike was executed. Life was this strike. Death was this strike. Meanwhile, the flying saber arrived. Bang! An expanse of sword light and saber light suddenly erupted in front of Yi Xian, and the heavens and the earth split apart. Mu Xiaodao's eyes suddenly narrowed because Yi Xian's sword had actually blocked her saber in the distance. Yi Xian had used the cracked executing heaven sword to block her flying saber. At this moment, Yi Xian was calm like water, and there wasn't the slightest aura of the sword Dao on him. However, the executing heaven sword in his hand was trembling slightly. Mu Xiaodao looked at Yi Xian. The mortal realm. It wasn't the mortal realm, but the mortal realm. A realm that had jumped out of the realm. From this moment onwards, the realms set by the Tao scripture and others were no longer effective against Yi Xian. He had truly jumped out of the shackles of the realm. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly waved his right hand. Bang! Yi Xian instantly retreated thousands of meters away. After he stopped, Yi Xian spat out several mouthfuls of blood, but he was smiling. The mortal realm. He had truly reached the mortal realm. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao suddenly smiled and said, "You seem very happy." Yi Xian looked at Mu Xiaodao and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Why wouldn't I be happy?" Mu Xiaodao blinked. "I had already entered the mortal realm hundreds of thousands of years ago." Yi Xian shook his head. No. That's not what I'm happy about." Mu Xiaodao was slightly curious. "Then what are you happy about?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "I'm happy that I can use external objects." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly opened his palm, and in the next moment, countless strands of sword energy shot out from within him. It wasn't his own sword energy, but the remnant sword energy that the green-clothed man had left behind tens of thousands of years ago. Mu Xiaodao's expression instantly changed when she saw the sword energy, and she held the flying saber between her fingers as she slashed it forward. The space in front of her was obliterated inch by inch. However, her attack wasn't able to shatter the sword energy, and the sword energy directly tore through her energy and slashed towards her. Mu Xiaodao's pupils constricted, and then she tapped the tip of her foot lightly and floated backwards. At the same time, the flying saber in her hand flew forward. Hiss! The saber tore through the sky and collided head-on with the sword energy. Meanwhile, one of the strands of sword energy slashed directly onto the flying saber, and it was instantly stopped. Meanwhile, another strand of sword energy slashed onto the flying saber. Bang! The flying saber was blasted flying. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao had already retreated 30 kilometers away. She opened her palm, and the flying saber appeared in her hand once more. But at this moment, the flying saber in her hand had split apart. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly roared furiously, "Condense!" As soon as he finished speaking, the illusory strands of sword energy suddenly fused together and transformed into a sword of energy. It was a relatively condensed sword of energy. Yi Xian pressed his fingers together and pointed forward, slash. Hiss! The sword of energy tore through the sky. Mu Xiaodao's eyes narrowed slightly, and there was a wisp of a solemn expression in the depths of her eyes. She didn't retreat. She took a step forward instead, and then she swiftly slashed the flying saber forward. Sky Destroyer. As soon as the saber descended, a 300 long strand of saber energy suddenly appeared in midair, and then it descended in a straight line. Crack. At this instant, the heavens and the earth and the surroundings collapsed. Sky Destroyer. The entire world was shocked. The saber energy slashed directly onto the sword of energy. In an instant, the heavens and the earth trembled violently while the space in the surroundings was transformed into nothingness. Suddenly, the sound of cracking resounded. Mu Xiaodao's saber energy split apart and shattered, and then the sword of energy continued forward and slashed at Mu Xiaodao. A wisp of viciousness flashed through Mu Xiaodao's eyes, and then she suddenly opened her palm. God Slayer. As soon as she finished speaking, the flying saber in her hands suddenly flew forward, and it was like a cold light that caused the heavens and the earth to dim down. Moreover, this saber slashed directly onto the sword of energy. Bang! The flying saber exploded apart, and then a powerful aftershock swept through the sky. It was extremely swift, and it instantly swept through the starry sky that was 500,000 kilometers away, causing the entire starry sky to seethe with excitement. At the instant that the flying saber shattered, the sword energy tore through the sky and slashed straight at Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao's expression became ferocious, and then she slowly closed her eyes while an illusory saber suddenly appeared above her. As soon as this illusory saber appeared, the quintessence energy in the world started to disperse bit by bit. This illusory saber was already harming the quintessence of the universe. Mu Xiaodao suddenly opened her eyes and shouted furiously, "Divine fusion." As soon as she finished speaking, her soul suddenly came out of its sheath. The next moment, her soul held on to the illusory flying saber and slashed forward. As the saber fell, the quintessence energy of the entire universe instantly dissipated at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. As for the world that Mu Xiaodao was in, it directly began to shatter. Under this saber, nothing could survive. Something worth mentioning was that when Yi Xian shot out that strand of sword energy, he'd already carried little on his back and ran. In order to block this sword energy, Mu Xiaodao did not hesitate to use her most powerful saber attack. In fact, she usually did not use this saber attack. This was because the lethality was too great, and it harmed the quintessence and the harmony of the world. However, at this moment, she had no other choice because this sword energy was simply too powerful. As this saber slashed down, the sword energy was finally forced to stop. However, in the next moment, Mu Xiaodao's pupils suddenly shrank because the flying saber in her hand began to be annihilated bit by bit. She still could not block it. Mu Xiaodao was greatly shocked, and she immediately shouted angrily, "Soul returns to God Slayer." As soon as she finished speaking, her soul returned to her body. As soon as her soul returned to her body, the illusory flying saber had vanished without a trace, and the sword energy had instantly arrived in front of her. At this critical moment, she used her hand like a saber, pointed forward, and shouted furiously, "Break!" Bang! Her right arm exploded apart while the powerful force of the collision blasted her over 100 kilometers away. As soon as she stopped moving, the energy sword had appeared in front of her once more. Her pupils suddenly constricted when she witnessed this scene. However, the energy sword had suddenly stopped when it was still half an inch away from the center of her forehead, and then it gradually dispersed into nothingness. Mu Xiaodao's eyes slowly closed. There was a mysterious force in front of her, and it was this mysterious force that had destroyed that strand of sword energy earlier. That mysterious force gradually started to disperse. Mu Xiaodao opened her eyes and gazed into the distance. Besides killing intent, there was a trace of seriousness and fear in her eyes. She knew that this strand of sword energy didn't belong to Yi Xian. But since it didn't belong to Yi Xian, then whose was it? A moment later, she lowered her head and glanced at her right shoulder. At this moment, her right arm had disappeared. Mu Xiaodao's eyes slowly closed, and no one knew what she was thinking. On the other side, Yi Xian was running madly with little and as he fled, he could still feel the intense battle behind him. At this moment, little suddenly said, the battle is over. Stop. Yi Xian stopped, put Little Er down, and then turned to look. Is she dead? Little Er glanced at the end of the horizon, and a moment later, she shook her head. No. The nomological energy behind her saved her. Yi Xian frowned slightly, and he said angrily, damn it, she actually called for help. How King shameless. Little Er glanced at Yi Xian. Don't you feel embarrassed when you say that? Yi Xian was speechless. Chapter 1551. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground and started to heal himself. Now, he started to use purple energy to heal himself. He who had already reached the mortal sword realm could use any external objects because he would no longer rely on them. His current state of mind was completely different from before. Of course, the main reason was that he had no choice but to use external objects. He really couldn't do it. At the side, Xiao Er was also healing herself. Her injuries were already mostly healed. Xiao Er glanced at Yi Xian. Why did you save me just now? Yi Xian said seriously, we are good friends, friends help each other. Xiao Er suddenly said angrily, shut up. Yi Xian, Xiao Er looked at Yi Xian, let me tell you, in my current state, even if we join forces, we still can't beat that woman. Moreover, that woman also summoned the Cosmos Executioner. With their speed, they will arrive here soon. Yi Xian said solemnly, Xiao Er, you are also from the Cosmos God Court, the Cosmos Executioner won't beat you too, right? Xiao Er was expressionless, they won't beat me, but they will beat you. Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then said, then what do you think we should do now? Xiao Er looked at Yi Xian, get rid of Mu Xiaodao, get rid of the Cosmos Executioner, then get rid of the Cosmos God Court. Yi Xian hurriedly said, you have a plan? Xiao Er said angrily, I have a chicken feather plan. Can you remember, I am from the Cosmos God Court, I am the protector of the misfortune law. Can you not ask me how to deal with the Cosmos God Court? We are really not on the same side. Yi Xian smiled awkwardly, I almost forgot about that. Xiao Er looked coldly at Yi Xian, remember, I want to kill you. Be more careful. Yi Xian thought for a moment, then said, then let's talk about how to deal with Mu Xiaodao. Xiao Er was silent for a moment, then said, that can be done. Yi Xian glanced at Little Er. Do you have any good suggestions? Xiao Er looked at Yi Xian. 3 ways. The first one, you call your big brother. Yi Xian shook his head. I don't know where Big Bro has gone to act cool. Tell me about the second one. Xiao Er pointed at the space between his eyebrows. Help me get the sword aura that your brother left in my brain out. I'll fight her one-on-one, and you can sneak an attack from the side. You can definitely kill her. Yi Xian asked, what happens after I kill her? Xiao Er looked at Yi Xian. Then I'll kill you. Yi Xian said, tell me about the third one. He knew very well that the reason he could coexist peacefully with Xiao Er now was because she was suppressed by the sword qi. If the sword qi was withdrawn, this woman would become even more terrifying than Mu Xiaodao. At that time, he might get mixed doubles. Little Er was expressionless. The third way is to keep running. However, this is only a stopgap measure, because she will find you sooner or later. Yi Xian said, I've already reached the mortal realm. If we join forces, can we kill her? Xiao Er shook her head. No. Yi Xian was about to speak when Xiao Er suddenly looked up at the sky. She frowned. She's here. As soon as she said that, the sky suddenly split open, and a woman walked out. It was Mu Xiaodao. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao's injuries were almost healed. Mu Xiaodao did not care about Xiao Er this time, but looked at Yi Xian. Do you still have that kind of sword qi? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Mu Xiaodao stared at Yi Xian. No. You don't have any more. As soon as she said that, the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out and slashed at Yi Xian. In the distance, Yi Xian took a step forward and stabbed with his sword. It was just an ordinary sword. Bang! Yi Xian instantly retreated a few kilometers. But in the next moment, he suddenly appeared in front of Mu Xiaodao and slashed with his sword. Mu Xiaodao caught the flying knife with 2 fingers and blocked it. Bang! The heavens and the earth trembled. Yi Xian was blasted flying again. However, at the instant he was blasted flying, over a dozen sword chi suddenly appeared around Mu Xiaodao. The sword chi crisscrossed and shattered space. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao's body suddenly became illusory, and he was faintly visible. Those sword chi slashed at him. A short moment later, Mu Xiaodao's body condensed, and those sword chi were gone. Yi Xian's face sank when he saw this scene. Mu Xiaodao was about to attack when a bolt of blood-red lightning suddenly descended from above her head. Xiao Er had attacked. At this moment, she knew that she couldn't allow Mu Xiaodao to kill Yi Xian. Otherwise, she would die as well. If she joined forces with Yi Xian, they would have a chance at survival. Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and the flying knife in her hand suddenly shot into the sky and slashed at the blood-red lightning. Bang! The blood-red lightning exploded apart and transformed into nothingness. Meanwhile, Xiao Er suddenly appeared in front of Mu Xiaodao. She used her hand like a knife and swiftly slashed at Mu Xiaodao. This slash was like a large knife as it slashed down fiercely at Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao's expression was icy cold. She charged forward and suddenly slashed with the knife with 2 fingers. Head on. Bang! The knife descended, and the blood-red lightning was instantly obliterated. Xiao Er instantly retreated explosively by 30 kilometers. Mu Xiaodao was just about to attack again when a sword chi suddenly appeared in front of her forehead. She tilted her head to the side and avoided this instant death strike by a hair's breadth. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of her, and a sword descended straight down from above her head. Mu Xiaodao's body suddenly became illusory. Hiss! Yi Xian's sword slashed empty air. Yi Xian's expression instantly changed when his sword slashed empty air, and he suddenly stabbed towards the right. Bang! As soon as his sword stabbed out, Yi Xian felt his arm go numb while his chest felt suffocated. After that, his entire body was blasted flying, and he flew over 30 kilometers away. At the instant that Yi Xian was blasted flying, Mu Xiaodao's palms suddenly opened, and a flying knife pursued Yi Xian. The flying knife was like a thunderclap that tore through everything. With this strike, the world and the surroundings was obliterated inch by inch. Obviously, Mu Xiaodao intended to kill Yi Xian with this strike. Yi Xian's pupils constricted when he saw this strike. What a formidable strike! A trace of viciousness flashed through Yi Xian's eyes. He didn't retreat, and he took a step forward instead before drawing his sword and slashing. A sword of life and death. Live. Or die. This strike slashed directly onto the flying knife, causing it to tremble violently before a powerful force erupted from it. Yi Xian's pupils constricted, and he hurriedly utilized his sword domain to suppress it. Bang! The powerful force within the flying knife was instantly suppressed by his sword domain, but his countenance had instantly turned pale. The strength of this strike had exceeded the limits of his sword domain. Right at this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly opened her palm, and then an illusory flying knife appeared in her hand. Mu Xiaodao gazed at Yi Xian. Go! As soon as she finished speaking, the flying knife shot straight at Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian was suppressing the flying knife, so how could he resist it? Right at this moment, a bolt of blood-red lightning suddenly flashed, and it smashed directly onto the flying knife. Bang! The flying knife shook violently, and then the blood-red lightning exploded apart. The flying knife shot straight at Xiao Er, who stood in front of Yi Xian. A wisp of viciousness flashed through Xiao Er's eyes, and then she suddenly pressed her palms together and stopped the flying knife. Bang! Xiao Er's figure shook violently while countless bolts of blood-red lightning exploded around her. At the same time, her body started to gradually become illusory. Her current strength was utterly insufficient to resist the might of this strike. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao opened his palm once more, and a flying knife condensed in his palm. Mu Xiaodao gazed at Xiao Er. Go! The flying knife suddenly shot forward. Another strike. Xiao Er's pupils constricted when she witnessed this scene, and then she slowly closed her eyes. After she was sealed by swordsmen, her strength was less than half of her peak strength. Under such circumstances, she was utterly unable to resist Mu Xiaodao, who was at his peak. Not to mention her current state, even she didn't dare say that she could defeat Mu Xiaodao at her peak. Now, she knew that she was really going to die. She wasn't afraid of death, but she was slightly displeased that she would have to die with this bitch behind her. However, it didn't matter. In any case, she and this bitch would both be annihilated, and no one would have a next life. At this moment, Yi Xian, who was behind Xiao Er, suddenly roared angrily. The next moment, he directly withdrew his sword domain and allowed the flying knife to pierce through his chest. However, he himself directly rushed in front of Xiao Er and stabbed forward with the executing heaven sword in his hand. The sword light cut through the knife light. Bang! The executing heaven sword in Yi Xian's hands suddenly exploded, and the flying knife directly penetrated his body. Bang! Yi Xian's body trembled violently, and then directly became illusory. Behind Yi Xian, Xiao Er opened her eyes. When she saw the scene before her, Xiao Er's eyes opened wide, and her entire mind went blank. Yi Xian slowly fell, and Xiao Er subconsciously caught him. Yi Xian was just about to speak when blood sprayed from his mouth, and his chest was instantly dyed red. Yi Xian looked at Xiao Er and smiled bitterly. I just reached the mortal realm. I thought I would finally be invincible. I didn't expect such an amazing person to come. Can't you give me a more normal enemy? This enemy is always several levels higher than me. I'm really angry. As he spoke, he spat out another mouthful of blood essence. Xiao Er looked at Yi Xian, and did not speak. It was unknown what she was thinking. Yi Xian said softly, Am I going to die? Xiao Er nodded. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then said, I think I can still be saved. Xiao Er looked at Yi Xian. In this life, I, Xiao Er, do not owe anyone anything. You saved my life, so I will return it to you. As she spoke, she stood up and looked at Mu Xiaodao, who was not far away. She slowly raised her hands, and in an instant, blood lightning surged in the horizon. At the same time, a tiny, character appeared between Xiao Er's eyebrows. Mu Xiaodao's eyes narrowed slightly. Xiao Er, you're going to utilize the energy of the laws left behind by the laws of disaster. You have to think this through. The person behind you has the constitution of disaster, and utilizing the energy of the laws of disaster to save him is equivalent to going against the laws of disaster and the cosmos divine court. You will be sent into the boundless divine prison and be imprisoned for eternity. Xiao Er said furiously, I'll fucking think about it. I'm going to die, so what the fuck am I thinking about? As soon as she finished speaking, the character between her eyebrows suddenly floated out, and in the next moment, an extremely terrifying force suddenly appeared here. Xiao Er pointed furiously at Mu Xiaodao. Kill this bitch. As soon as she finished speaking, the character suddenly transformed into a blood-red bolt of lightning that slashed down towards Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao gave Xiao Er a thumbs up when he saw this scene. You really have balls. You use the energy of the laws of disaster to help the person with the constitution of disaster resist the laws of disaster. Just wait for your punishment. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and ran. Chapter 1552. The power of the disaster law did not stop, instead, it directly chased after Mu Xiaodao. This time, Mu Xiaodao did not choose to take it head-on. Because she knew that she could not withstand the power of this disaster law. Seeing Mu Xiaodao escape, little Er's face was incomparably gloomy. After a moment, she turned to look at Yi Xian, Yi Xian was lying on the ground motionless. Little Er's brows slightly wrinkled. This guy can't really be dead, right? Little Er quickly walked to Yi Xian. She sized up Yi Xian. Yi Xian was still motionless. Little Er kicked Yi Xian. Stop pretending to be dead. Yi Xian was still motionless. Little Er opened her palm. A bolt of divine lightning appeared in her hand. At this time, Yi Xian sat up. He smiled. How did you know I'm not dead? Little Er kept the divine lightning, her face expressionless. I actually did not think that your bloodline is the Immortal Emperor clan's immortal bloodline. Immortal bloodline. Just now that saber strike, Yi Xian would have undoubtedly died, but the immortal bloodline forcibly saved him. Yi Xian shook his head. He also thought that he would undoubtedly die. Until the immortal bloodline began to repair his body, he then remembered that he originally had the immortal bloodline. This time, if not for the immortal bloodline, he would really be dead. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian suddenly asked, Little Er, since I have the immortal bloodline, does it mean that I can exhaust that woman to death? Little Er coldly looked at Yi Xian. What kind of dream are you having? Yi Xian slightly frowned. Can't I? Little Er said, just now if she used another saber strike, your soul would immediately be destroyed. Although your immortal bloodline is heaven-defying, it is not invincible. As long as the strength is strong enough, it can end you before you recover. Yi Xian nodded, understood. As he spoke, he turned to look at the end of the horizon. Can the power of the law that you created just now kill her? Ernie shook his head. No. He could only force her away temporarily. And she would soon catch up again. Also. At this point, she didn't continue. Yi Xian looked at Little Er. You used the misfortune law to help me. You will be punished by the Cosmos God Court, right? Little Ernie was expressionless. That's my business. She then looked at Yi Xian and said, I didn't do it to save you. I just don't like that woman. Don't overthink it. Yi Xian looked at Little Er and frowned. Will you really be punished? Xiao Er said indifferently, that's my business. Yi Xian suddenly said, Little Misfortune, why don't you stop following that law of disaster? Xiao Er slowly closed his eyes. You can go now. Yi Xian frowned. They want to punish you. Little Ernie glared at Yi Xian. If you don't go now, that woman will come here again after she exhausts my misfortune law. At that time, you won't be her match. Also, I can already feel that the cosmic enforcers are rushing here. In at most an hour, they will appear here. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, let's go together. Little Ernie said angrily, go my ass. I am the protector of the misfortune law. My duty is to protect the misfortune law and the Cosmos God Court. Yi Xian also became angry. They want to punish you. Little Ernie glared at Yi Xian. I made a mistake. I deserve to be punished. Yi Xian said angrily, deserve my ass. Let's go together. Little Ernie stared at Yi Xian. His eyes were filled with anger. You only know how to go. Where are you going? Don't you know that if I follow you, it won't be Mu Xiaodao alone who will come? There will be even more powerful law protectors coming. Yi Xian roared. I'm not afraid. Little Ernie's chest heaved. She took a deep breath. Slut, I saved you because I don't want to owe you anything. Really, I don't have any other intentions. Also, I'm your enemy. Do you understand? Yi Xian looked at Little Ernie. You used the misfortune law to save me. This action is equivalent to betraying the misfortune law and the Cosmos God Court. They won't let you off easily. Little Ernie looked straight at Yi Xian. This is my choice. Yi Xian shook his head. Just as he was about to speak, Little Ernie said, quickly go. The power of my law of disaster is already slowly dissipating. Once the power of the law of disaster completely disappears, that woman will immediately return. Also, the Cosmos enforcers are getting closer. If you don't leave now, you won't be able to leave later. Yi Xian said solemnly, if you stay here, Mu Xiaodao will kill you. Little Ernie looked up at the horizon. She said softly, he won't. Yi Xian frowned. Why? Little Ernie suddenly glared at Yi Xian. Can you stop being so wishy-washy? Quickly scram. Yi Xian was about to speak. At this moment, Little Ernie suddenly looked up at the horizon. The next moment, she grabbed Yi Xian's collar. She said angrily, you idiot. You can't leave now. As soon as she finished speaking, the space in the horizon suddenly tore open. The next moment, a black-robed man holding a staff walked out. Behind the black-robed man were 12 other black-robed men. These 12 black-robed men all had long blades on their waists. The 12 of them were wearing masks. Their real faces couldn't be seen. Cosmos Enforcers. The 12 of them stood there without any aura. It was as if they didn't exist. The black-robed man's gaze landed on Little Ernie. Little Ernie has betrayed the God Palace. We are under orders to arrest you and send you to the boundless God prison. As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his palm. A pitch-black chain flew out from his palm and pointed straight at Little Ernie. Little Ernie was expressionless. She had no intention of resisting. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stood in front of her. He drew his sword and slashed. Boom! The chain was immediately sent flying. The black-robed man looked at Yi Xian and narrowed his eyes. Sinner of misfortune. Yi Xian said fiercely, did you ask me to capture someone? As he spoke, he was about to draw his sword. At this moment, Little Ernie suddenly stood in front of him. She looked at Yi Xian. Mu Xiaodao isn't here yet. If you escape now, you still have a chance. Yi Xian said angrily, I won't escape. Little Ernie said angrily, this is my business. I don't need you to interfere. Yi Xian was expressionless. Whether I escape or not is also my business. I don't need you to interfere. Little Ernie glared at Yi Xian. She was speechless. You, at this moment, the black-robed man suddenly said, capture the sinner of misfortune. As soon as he finished speaking, a black-robed man suddenly disappeared from the sky. A vicious glint flashed in Yi Xian's eyes, and he slashed forward with his sword. Boom! A wave of sword light exploded, and the black-robed man was forced back. But at this moment, a saber silently appeared at the back of his neck. It was so fast that Yi Xian could not dodge at all. Yi Xian did not choose to dodge either. Instead, he stabbed backward with his sword. It was a suicidal move. He had no choice. However, the black-robed man did not choose to die with him. The moment Yi Xian's sword stabbed backward, the black-robed man withdrew his saber and retreated. Chi! Yi Xian's attack missed. However, the moment his sword missed, a saber suddenly pierced straight down from the top of his head. It was a perfect combination. Yi Xian immediately activated his sword domain. As soon as it appeared, the saber's speed was instantly suppressed. At this instant, Yi Xian moved over 30 m back. However, he just stopped when 12 rays of light suddenly entered his sword domain. Bang! His sword domain was instantly slashed into pieces. In the next moment, a few hundred afterimages appeared in the space before him. Moreover, there were a few hundred rays of light mixed within those afterimages. Yi Xian closed his eyes slowly. Then he suddenly opened his eyes and thrust his sword out at high speed. Mortal sword. In an instant, he'd attacked over 100 times. Sword. Sword. Mortal sword. Bang. 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 The rays of light from the sword and saber shattered while Yi Xian retreated repeatedly. Countless rays of light crisscrossed around him, and the sound of space being torn apart resounded incessantly like firecrackers. At that moment, Little Air, who was not far away, suddenly disappeared. Chi! A blood-red bolt of divine lightning tore through the battlefield. Bang! In the distance, a certain space directly exploded. The battle had stopped. Little Ernie appeared by Yi Xian's side. At this moment, Yi Xian's body was densely covered in saber wounds. However, those wounds were recovering at an extremely fast speed. In the distance, the 12 people were covered in wounds as well. In the sky, the black-robed old man looked down at Little Ernie. "Protector, do you know what you're doing?" Little Ernie ignored the black-robed old man, and she turned to look at Yi Xian. "I must go back." Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "You won't have a good ending if you go back." Little Ernie looked straight at Yi Xian. "But I must go back. I made a mistake, and I deserve to be punished by the divine court." Yi Xian looked at Little Ernie. "You made a mistake because you saved me. I'm part of this mistake." Little Ernie shook her head. "We stand on different sides in the end." "Different sides?" Yi Xian was silent. He was the misfortune entity, while Little Ernie was the protector of the misfortune law, the protector of the cosmos god court. Yes, they stand on different sides. Little Ernie was about to speak, but at this moment, the black-robed old man suddenly said, "Kill. Kill." The 12 Cosmic Order enforcers were about to attack when Little Ernie suddenly said, "Yanma, let him go. I will go back with you." The black-robed old man called Yanma looked at Little Ernie. "Protector, do you know what you're saying?" Little Ernie looked at Yanma. "If you don't let him go, I will join forces with him." "I'm afraid you're not our match." Yanma was silent, and her face was slightly ugly. She knew Little Ernie's strength. If they were to fight, the 13 of them would not be this misfortune protector's match. It could be said that if Little Ernie wanted to kill them, it would be very simple. Of course, he did not know that a portion of Little Ernie's strength had been sealed. Moreover, he didn't believe that Little Ernie would dare to kill them. If she really killed them, then she would truly be betraying the misfortune law and the cosmos god court. Little Ernie turned around to gaze at Yi Xian. "Don't make it difficult for me. Going back with them is my choice. Because I was raised by the misfortune law, and I don't want to go against it. Take it as me begging you." Yi Xian was about to speak when a bolt of blood-red lightning suddenly descended from the sky. Little Ernie's expression instantly changed drastically when she sensed it, and she swiftly pushed Yi Xian away. A moment later, she was struck by it. Bang! Little Ernie's body exploded into pieces, and her soul was swept away by a bolt of blood-red divine lightning. Yi Xian was struck dumb at the sight of that. Not far away, Yama bowed slightly. Because it was the energy of the misfortune law that had attacked just now. Meanwhile, Mu Xiaodao suddenly appeared here. She glanced at the battlefield and smiled. "She's finished." Yi Xian gazed at Mu Xiaodao. "What are you trying to say?" Mu Xiaodao gazed at Yi Xian and smiled. "She's been sent to the boundless divine prison. She'll suffer a fate worse than death. P.S. I drank too much with a reader last night. I woke up late today, and my alarm didn't even wake me up. I'm fucking late again. I'll fucking beat anyone who dares to drink with me in the future." Chapter 1553. A life worse than death. Yi Xian's expression was as cold as ice. The soul-suppressing sword in his hand gradually trembled. Mu Xiaodao sized up Yi Xian and smiled. "I really didn't expect her to go against the law of misfortune for you. This woman is usually quite smart. Why did she become so stupid this time?" Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. "How do I get to the boundless god prison?" Mu Xiaodao blinked. "You want to go to the boundless god prison to save her?" Yi Xian looked at Mu Xiaodao and suddenly drew his sword. Sword drawing technique. The current sword drawing technique was worlds apart from the previous sword drawing technique. This was because he was now in the mortal realm. When the sword fell, heaven and earth were torn apart. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao opened her palm and the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out. Chi! A sharp and ear-piercing tearing sound suddenly resounded. This flying knife directly slashed the tip of Yi Xian's sword. Boom! In front of Yi Xian, a beam of sword light suddenly exploded, and he was sent flying backward. He was sent flying thousands of feet away. After stopping, his arm felt numb. At the same time, a trace of blood slowly flowed out from the corner of his mouth. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao opened her palm and a flying knife appeared in her palm. She slowly walked towards Yi Xian and smiled. Are you in despair? You want to save her, but there's nothing you can do. Yi Xian chuckled. I suddenly realized that this so-called order of yours is very trashy. Mu Xiaodao caught the flying knife with 2 fingers and looked at Yi Xian. Are you questioning our Cosmos God Court? Yi Xian looked at Mu Xiaodao and pointed his sword at her. Yes. As his voice fell, he suddenly charged forward and instantly appeared in front of Mu Xiaodao and slashed down with his sword. In Mu Xiaodao's palm, a flying knife directly turned into a blade light and flew out. Boom! A wave of sword light shattered again and Yi Xian instantly retreated thousands of meters. However, at this moment, a sword suddenly appeared in front of Mu Xiaodao's forehead. Instant kill sword. Mu Xiaodao's expression was calm as she tilted her head slightly, once again dodging the sword by a hair's breadth. At the same time, the flying knife in her hand had already flown out. In the distance, Yi Xian blocked with his sword. Boom! The soul-suppressing sword in his hand trembled violently, and his entire body was sent flying again. At this moment, another flying knife appeared in Mu Xiaodao's hand. She looked at Yi Xian and chuckled. I know that you don't like our Cosmos God Court. However, what can you do? You can't beat him one-on-one. You won't be able to beat them in numbers. Are you angry? As she said that, she blinked. I know. You want to say that I'm bullying the weak. I like to bully the weak. What can you do to me? Hee hee. His words struck at the heart. She was purposely trying to provoke Yi Xian. It was easier to deal with an angry person. Of course, what she was truly worried about was that Yi Xian possessed that formidable sword qi from before. In the distance, Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He laughed. Are you trying to provoke me? Mu Xiaodao looked at Yi Xian. Do you know what will happen to little heir? Her physical body has already been shattered, and her soul will be thrown into the boundless God prison. She will be burned by the heavenly law divine fire for eternity. Not only will there be the heavenly law divine fire, there will also be the 10,000 tribulation lightning soul refinement, divine water soul immersion, absolute ice spirit soul freezing. Most importantly, she will suffer the millions of lashes of the law soul whip every day. That feeling, TSK. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian opened his palm. The soul-suppressing sword in his hand turned into a sword spirit. The sword of the green-robed man. Yi Xian's expression suddenly turned ferocious. Woman, you said that I can't beat you one-on-one. Alright, let's fight one-on-one now. Remember, whoever calls for a helper is a dog. Boom. As his voice fell, his eyes turned blood red. At the same time, a surge of blood surged from his body. Boom. The entire starry sky turned into a sea of blood. Seeing this scene, Mu Xiaodao's eyes narrowed. What the hell is this? At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared on the spot. The flying knife in Mu Xiaodao's hand suddenly flew out. In the distance, Yi Xian suddenly slashed down with his sword. The sword light was blood red. Boom. As the sword descended, Mu Xiaodao's flying knife was directly stopped. At this moment, the strength of both sides was actually equal. Seeing this scene, Mu Xiaodao frowned. What the hell is this? At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stomped his right foot. Boom. Space instantly exploded, and the flying knife in front of him was directly slashed away. At the same time, he directly turned into a blood-red light and slashed at Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao did not retreat. Instead, he advanced and slashed at Yi Xian. Head on. Boom. A bloody light suddenly erupted not far away, and Yi Xian instantly retreated several thousand feet, while Mu Xiaodao also retreated nearly 3,000 feet. After he stopped, Mu Xiaodao looked at the chipped flying knife in disbelief. As she spoke, she looked at Yi Xian who was nearby with disbelief. What the hell is this? How could his bloodline be so heaven-defying? In the distance, Yi Xian didn't waste his breath. He charged forward once more and slashed down at Mu Xiaodao. A wisp of viciousness flashed in Mu Xiaodao's eyes. I refuse to believe that I can't defeat you. As soon as she finished speaking, she took a step forward, and the flying knife in her palm suddenly flew out. Skybreaker. Army Destroyer. As the knife flew out, the entire world became illusory. In the distance, Yi Xian suddenly sheathed his sword. In the next moment, he suddenly drew his sword and slashed. Sword drawing technique. With a single slash, the space in an area of hundreds of thousands of meters exploded. Bang! Yi Xian's sword forcefully stopped Mu Xiaodao's flying knife. At the instant the sword came into contact with the flying knife, the space in an area of hundreds of thousands of kilometers turned pitch black. This world was utterly unable to endure the strength of the two of them. Right at this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly vanished on the spot. At practically the exact same moment, Yi Xian suddenly turned around and slashed down with his sword. Rumble. A figure was directly slashed back. It was Mu Xiaodao. As for Yi Xian, he retreated over 1 kilometer. After he stopped, Yi Xian held his sword and pointed it downwards. Powerful sword intent and aura erupted ceaselessly from his body like a volcano. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao stared fixedly at Yi Xian. She noticed that Yi Xian's aura was increasing explosively at every moment as if there was no limit. Mu Xiaodao frowned deeply. Just what kind of plaything was this bloodline? It's actually so heaven-defying. Although Yi Xian had reached the mortal realm, he had only just reached the mortal realm. There was still a huge gap between them. But at this moment, this mysterious bloodline power had actually made up for this gap. Most importantly, Yi Xian was still growing stronger. Thinking up to here, Mu Xiaodao spread out her palm. She knew that she had to end this battle quickly. Mu Xiaodao took a step forward. Above his head, an illusory flying knife suddenly condensed. In the distance, Yi Xian seemed to sense danger and suddenly disappeared on the spot. Strike first and gain the upper hand. But Mu Xiaodao did not give him this chance. Mu Xiaodao's soul suddenly unsheathed. Her soul directly grabbed the flying knife and slashed forward. God slaying. 1/God slaying. At the instant the knife was slashed out, a formidable force suddenly shot into the sky and directly shot into the starry sky that was 500,000 kilometers away, causing the entire starry sky to seethe. At the instant that Mu Xiaodao slashed out, Yi Xian suddenly utilized his sword domain. At the instant the sword domain appeared, the flying knife was directly suppressed. However, Yi Xian's countenance instantly turned pale like a sheet of paper. Moreover, the strength of the flying knife hadn't vanished, and it had merely slowed down slightly. Yi Xian suddenly took a step forward and slashed down with his sword. Rumble. This sword strike contained the strength of his sword domain. As soon as the sword descended, his sword domain was directly shattered into pieces, and the flying knife trembled violently as well. After that, 2 strands of formidable force suddenly erupted. Bang! Yi Xian was instantly blasted over 10 kilometers away. As soon as he stopped, his entire body split open and blood sprayed. On the other hand, Mu Xiaodao was blasted 3 kilometers away as well. These 2 forces were too strong. Even if it was her, she was unable to completely resist those 2 forces. After stopping, Mu Xiaodao raised her head to look at Yi Xian who was nearby. When she saw that Yi Xian was heavily injured, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. I've finally crippled you. As she spoke, she opened her palm and a flying knife appeared in her palm. She was about to attack again, but the smile on the corners of her mouth suddenly froze. Because in the distance, Yi Xian's wounds were recovering at a terrifying speed. The undying bloodline. At this moment, within Yi Xian's body, the undying bloodline was madly repairing Yi Xian's body. Moreover, Yi Xian's mad demon bloodline didn't suppress the undying bloodline. At this critical moment, the mad demon bloodline didn't act recklessly. Of course, it wasn't that it didn't act recklessly, but it was because of the sword spirit. When the sword spirit was present, the mad demon bloodline still had to give him face. Soon, Yi Xian's injuries were almost fully recovered. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao stared at Yi Xian. These two bloodlines of yours are really abnormal. At this moment, in the distance, Yi Xian suddenly said in a ferocious voice, "Please kill me." At this moment, he hadn't completely entered the mad demon state. Because he still had something very important to do, so he didn't dare to let himself completely enter the mad demon state. He must maintain a trace of consciousness. Mu Xiaodao looked at Yi Xian, so arrogant. As she spoke, the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out. In the distance, Yi Xian stabbed out with his sword. Boom! The flying knife was forced to stop in place by his sword. The next moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao blocked with her knife. Boom! A blood-colored sword light erupted, and Mu Xiaodao was directly pushed back. But Yi Xian didn't stop and rushed forward again. Soon, the two of them fought fiercely. Yi Xian was still at a slight disadvantage, but the more he fought, the stronger he became. Especially relying on the powerful recovery ability of the immortal bloodline, the more he fought, the fiercer he became. The power of the two bloodlines forcibly closed the gap between him and Mu Xiaodao. Of course, the most important thing was that he was now in the mortal realm. After the mortal realm, the mad demon bloodline was even more terrifying. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly stopped in the distance. She looked at Yi Xian and said angrily, "You're really shameless, you actually used foreign objects. I'm warning you now, if you don't stop using foreign objects, I'll beat you up." Yi Xian. At this moment, Xiao Ta suddenly said angrily, "F***ck, this woman is actually more shameless than you, young master." Chapter 1554. Group Fight. Actually, Mu Xiaodao felt extremely sullen in her heart. Because she realized that she couldn't kill Yi Xian. With the help of the two bloodlines, Yi Xian was able to compete with her. Of course, it wasn't very possible for Yi Xian to kill her. But it wasn't a good idea to continue like this. Because Yi Xian was becoming stronger and stronger. Her main purpose of coming here was to kill Yi Xian. In the distance, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. A sea of blood surged around him. Mad demon bloodline. He realized that if it wasn't for the sword spirit's help, he wouldn't be able to control the mad demon bloodline. Suddenly, Mu Xiaodao said, "I'm warning you for the last time. If you continue to use external force, I'll beat you up." Yi Xian looked at Mu Xiaodao and opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with a sea of blood. "Woman, you're bullying the weak, and you won't let me use external force?" Mu Xiaodao said angrily, "What do you mean by bullying the weak? You're in the mortal realm, and so am I. Is this bullying the weak? Moreover, you're a man, and I'm a woman. Don't you think it's shameful for a man like you to use external force to fight a woman?" Yi Xian cursed, "Shameful your mother. Is that what you're saying? You're a super expert after all. Can't you have some face?" Mu Xiaodao slapped his face. "Face is just skin. What's the use of it? What's the use?" Yi Xian, in the prison pagoda, Xiao Ta sighed, "It's over. In terms of shamelessness, young master has met his match." Mu Xiaodao suddenly said, "Since you insist on using external force, then I won't be polite anymore." As she spoke, she looked at Yan Mo, "Let's beat him up together." Yan Mo nodded slightly. He'd wanted to do that for a long time. Mu Xiaodao opened his palm and a flying dagger flashed across the field. Yan Mo and the others disappeared on the spot as well. Ganging up. In the distance, Yi Xian's expression suddenly changed. He held his sword with both hands and slashed forward. Boom! The flying dagger was stopped by his sword, but at this moment, hundreds of afterimages suddenly appeared around him. The saber light swept across, shattering the space. Yi Xian stomped his right foot and retreated. At the same time, he swung the sword in his hand. Boom, 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 boom. As a series of explosions rang out, Yi Xian kept retreating. While he was retreating, the saber gleams drowned him like a torrential storm. At this time, Mu Xiaodao, who was far away, suddenly threw out his fingers. Chi! A flying dagger suddenly disappeared into the saber radiance. Boom! The saber light directly exploded, and Yi Xian instantly retreated several tens of thousands of meters away. As soon as he stopped, his chest split open and blood spurted out. It was caused by a flying dagger. Heavy injuries. If it wasn't for the undying bloodline that was repairing his body, he would be dead by now. Right at this moment, Yan Mo and the others charged towards him again. At the same time, Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and another flying dagger appeared in her palm. Mu Xiaodao looked at Yi Xian, who was being besieged. It's over. As soon as she finished speaking, the flying dagger in her hands suddenly flew out. In the distance, Yi Xian's pupils constricted as he was fighting against the law enforcers. At this moment, he was pinned down by the law enforcers and the others, so he couldn't resist the flying dagger at all. Moreover, if he didn't, the flying dagger would take his life. At this critical moment, Yi Xian suddenly roared furiously, "Condense!" Bang! In an instant, the blood qi in the surroundings suddenly condensed into numerous blood swords, and they slashed towards the flying dagger. Controlling the swords with his thoughts. Bang! 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 The blood swords slashed against the flying dagger. Even though they weren't able to block it, they did slow down the flying dagger. Mu Xiaodao's beautiful brows knit together slightly when she witnessed this scene. She opened her palm, and another flying dagger appeared. In the next moment, this flying dagger flew forward. Hiss! The sound of space being torn apart suddenly resounded. 2 flying daggers. Yi Xian's expression had become ferocious, and then his body suddenly started burning, igniting his lifespan. Life sword. Actually, he didn't have much lifespan left. But at this moment, he had no choice but to ignite it. Because he would definitely die if he didn't. As his lifespan was ignited, Yi Xian's aura suddenly rose explosively. Yi Xian held his sword with both hands and suddenly slashed forward. Bang! His sword slashed down, and the expanse of light in front of him was instantly slashed into pieces. The 12 law enforcers and Yan Mo were blasted over 30 kilometers back, and Mu Xiaodao's flying daggers were instantly blasted flying as well. On the other hand, Yi Xian seemed as if he'd collapsed, and he almost fell to the ground. At this moment, he only had less than 10 days of lifespan left. This was even because the sword spirit had forcefully stopped him. If the sword spirit hadn't stopped him, then he would have perished on the spot. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao glanced at Yi Xian, and she was slightly shocked in her heart. The might of Yi Xian's attack from before was slightly abnormal. Why does this fellow have so many trump cards? Mu Xiaodao didn't think too much about it. She opened her palm, and another flying dagger appeared. She was able to discern that Yi Xian was very weak after he executed that secret technique. Now was the best opportunity to kill Yi Xian. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm, and a box appeared in his hand. Yi Xian gazed at Mu Xiaodao, and he wiped off the blood on the corners of his mouth. "Woman, I really don't want to open this box now. I advise you to be kind." Mu Xiaodao gazed at Yi Xian. "Are you threatening me?" Yi Xian said angrily, "I am threatening you. Come at me if you have the balls." Mu Xiaodao remained silent. She didn't think that Yi Xian was bluffing. Damn it, this person has too many trump cards. Especially the sword qi at the beginning, if there were more. Thinking of this, Mu Xiaodao kept the flying dagger, retreated to the side, and looked at Yan Mo. "You guys go first. Yi Xian, Yan Mo and the others' expressions froze. Was this how they played? Yan Mo hesitated for a moment, and then said, Miss Mu, you're stronger. Mu Xiaodao blinked, don't tell me you think I'm afraid of death, that's why I don't dare to go. Yan Mo glanced at Mu Xiaodao, was that not the case? Mu Xiaodao said seriously, I'm the dignified Mu Xiaodao, how can I be afraid of death? The reason why I let you guys go first is because I want to give this credit to you enforcers. I had good intentions, but you guys misunderstood me. I'm so angry. I want to complain that you guys are cowards, and don't dare to go forward in the face of the enemy. Yan Mo suddenly said, Miss Mu, stop talking. Can't we go? As he spoke, he sighed in his heart. Damn it, there was nothing he could do when he encountered such a muddle-headed person. Most importantly, she was of a higher rank than him. Moreover, Mu Xiaodao was famous for being a troublemaker in the Cosmos Divine Court, so forming a grudge with her would cause him to suffer in the future. Yan Mo looked at Yi Xian in the distance, and then he led the 12 enforcers and charged over. At the side, Mu Xiaodao glanced at the box in Yi Xian's hand, and then she opened her palm, and a flying dagger suddenly flew out. She'd thought it through. She didn't fight Yi Xian head-on, and she would stab him in the dark. In the distance, Yi Xian's eyes gradually turned icy cold, and he was about to open the box when the sky suddenly split open, and a powerful aura descended from the sky. Bang! A powerful force blasted the 12 enforcers back, and the flying dagger in front of Yi Xian was suddenly stopped by a mysterious force. A woman stood in front of Yi Xian. Undying Emperor Race's patriarch, Dongli Jing. Dongli Jing punched out. Boom! That flying dagger was directly sent flying. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and a flying dagger landed in her hand. Mu Xiaodao looked at Dongli Jing, Undying Emperor Race. Dongli Jing had one hand behind her back, and she looked at Mu Xiaodao, yes. Mu Xiaodao smiled, is the Undying Emperor Race declaring war on the Cosmos Divine Court? Dongli Jing didn't reply, she turned to look at Yi Xian, and when she saw the two bloodlines in Yi Xian's body, her eyes constricted. Two peak bloodlines coexisting. Moreover, Yi Xian was still in the mortal realm. Such a young mortal realm, Dongli Jing suddenly laughed, she turned to Mu Xiaodao, going against the Cosmos Divine Court? So what? Mu Xiaodao gave a thumbs up, you've got guts. Dongli Jing suddenly said, Big Dipper. A woman clad in armor suddenly appeared behind Higashi Yasushi as soon as he finished speaking. Dongli Jing looked at the dying Yi Xian, immediately escort the young master to the 9 dimensions, and send him back to the clan at all costs. Whoever dares to stop us, no matter who, kill without mercy. Big Dipper said, understood. With that, she turned and disappeared into the horizon with Yi Xian. In the distance, Mu Xiaodao suddenly said, you guys chase after them. Yin Ma and the rest disappeared on the spot. Dongli Jing was about to attack, but a saber force enveloped her. Dongli Jing looked at Mu Xiaodao, and Mu Xiaodao smiled, she opened her palm, and a golden stone suddenly floated up, turned into a golden light, and disappeared into the depths of the universe. Call for reinforcements. Mu Xiaodao was very clear that with the Undying Emperor Race's interference, they couldn't kill Yi Xian. Watching the golden light disappear into the depths of the universe, Mu Xiaodao retracted her gaze, and looked at Dongli Jing, Undying Emperor Race, I'm afraid you can't afford to play with us. Dongli Jing smiled, won't you know if you can or can't afford to play with us? Mu Xiaodao looked at Dongli Jing, come, let's exchange a few moves. With that, the throwing knife in her hand suddenly flew out. In the distance, Dongli Jing's eyes flashed with hostility, and in the next instant, she directly charged out. Boom! A great battle erupted. Somewhere in the horizon, Big Dipper was madly running with Yi Xian. Return to the Undying Emperor Race. At this moment, Yinma and the rest suddenly appeared in front of Big Dipper. Yinma looked at Big Dipper, put him down. Big Dipper suddenly said, kill. With that, the surrounding space suddenly split open, and in the next instant, 36 people directly charged out. The Undying Emperor Army. Big Dipper directly left with Yi Xian. Behind them, Yinma's expression suddenly became ferocious. He opened his palm, and a pitch-black token suddenly shot into the sky, straight into the depths of the universe. Enforcement Order. Once this order was issued, regardless of where in the universe the enforcers were, they had to rush over as fast as possible. Big Dipper directly brought Yi Xian to the 7th dimension, and beside her were 46 experts from the Undying Emperor Army. As soon as they arrived in the 7th dimension, Big Dipper directly roared, "Immediately open the universe barrier." As soon as she finished speaking, she took Yi Xian and dashed away. In the 7th dimension, countless experts followed and escorted. Just as they arrived in front of the universe barrier, a spatial vortex suddenly appeared above their heads, and at the same time, a voice came from the depths of the vortex. "This is a sinner with a body of misfortune. Who dares to save him?" Big Dipper turned his head to look at an Undying Emperor Army beside him. "Stop them." That expert replied, "Understood." As soon as he finished speaking, he led the 46 super experts beside him and charged into the black whirlpool. Big Dipper directly led Yi Xian into the 8th dimension. Along the way, Big Dipper's eyes were as cold as ice, and on her waist, there were 100 wooden jade tokens, but at this moment, those jade tokens were currently shattering. Those were soul tokens. P.S. Don't go away, there's more. Chapter 1555. Soul tablets shattering one by one meant that people were dying one by one. Big Dipper's heart was bleeding. But she couldn't stop. She didn't know who Yi Xian was. She only knew that the person in her arms was the young master of the Undying Emperor clan, the future of the Undying Emperor clan. Big Dipper carried Yi Xian as they sprinted towards the 9-dimensional universe. Along the way, there were experts escorting and protecting them. However, these experts were still too weak in front of the universal enforcers. Soon, Big Dipper brought Yi Xian to the barrier of the 9-dimensional universe. At this moment, the barrier of the 9-dimensional universe had already been opened. Just as Big Dipper was about to bring Yi Xian in, the space above her head suddenly split open. Then, a ray of saber light shot through the starry sky like a meteor. Chi! Wherever the saber light passed, ear-piercing tearing sounds reverberated. Big Dipper immediately stopped, pulled out the saber at her waist, and slashed upwards. Boom! The saber light shattered, and Big Dipper brought Yi Xian back several hundred meters. The moment she stopped, she saw 26 black-robed men standing not far from her. Universal enforcers. The leader was a middle-aged man in a black robe. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were as sharp as knives. In his right hand, he held a sheathed saber. Mo Shan. The commanders of the Universal Enforcers. There were a total of 6 commanders in the Universal Enforcers, and every commander was a powerhouse of a region. Mo Shan looked at Big Dipper. Without any superfluous words, he suddenly charged forward, unsheathed his saber, and slashed. Chi! Heaven and earth split open. Big Dipper's lips curled into a sinister smile. She put down Yi Xian, and her entire body was like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. She also unsheathed her saber and slashed. Boom! A wave of saber lights suddenly exploded, and the two of them retreated several thousand meters. In front of them, countless saber lights tore through the air. It was incomparably terrifying. After Big Dipper stopped, she raised her saber with both hands, took a step forward, and roared, "Slash!" The saber fell, and with her at the center, the space around her began to crumble inch by inch. In the distance, Mo Shan suddenly disappeared. Chi! An afterimage tore through the battlefield. When Mo Shan was about 100 feet away from Big Dipper, he suddenly drew his saber and slashed. Fight head on. Boom! A wave of saber lights suddenly exploded in front of the two. This time, neither of them retreated. Instead, they slashed over 1,000 times. The surrounding space began to crumble bit by bit. The space of the eight-dimensional universe couldn't withstand the power of the two of them. Under their slashes, the entire starry sky was sliced into countless pieces like tofu. It was extremely terrifying. As the two fought fiercely, Yi Xian, who was not far away, was suppressing the mad demon bloodline in his body. His injury was actually almost healed. After all, he had the undying bloodline and the purple gas. The reason why he wanted to suppress the crazy demon bloodline was because he realized that he could no longer suppress this bloodline. If he continued like this, he would completely lose his mind. Once he entered that state, it would be dangerous. Therefore, he must suppress this demonic madness bloodline. In the distance, Seven Star was still fighting with Mo Shan. Their battle was earth-shattering and the entire starry sky had already shattered. The two of them were equally matched. Neither of them could do anything to the other. At this moment, more than 10 universe enforcers charged towards Yi Xian, who was not far away. The saber light was like a waterfall that was about to drown Yi Xian. Yi Xian's eyes suddenly opened, and within them was still a sea of blood. He was about to attack when Seven Star suddenly slashed Mo Shan back. In the next moment, she appeared in front of Yi Xian and threw the saber in her hand forward. Chi! Heaven-shattering saber. Rumble. Countless saber lights shattered, and the dozen universe guardians were directly forced back. Seven Star opened her right hand, and the saber flew back into her hand. She stood with the saber in her hand, her beautiful hair fluttering in the wind. Her eyes were filled with ferocity, and she was like a goddess of war. Seven Star. The deputy commander of the Undying Emperor Army. In the Undying Emperor Army, her prestige was only second to the commander. Seven Star turned to look at Yi Xian. How much longer do you need? Yi Xian suddenly stood up. That's enough. At this moment, he had already suppressed his mad devil bloodline. Seven Star pointed at the distant universe barrier. Go to the Undying Realm. There will be people there to receive you. Yi Xian glanced at the universe barrier before looking at Seven Star. What about you? Seven Star was expressionless. I'll block here. Yi Xian shook his head. You will die. Seven Star looked at Yi Xian with cold eyes. Go in. Don't let those people die in vain. Yi Xian said, you go receive them. I'll block them here. Seven Star stared at Yi Xian. Yi Xian suddenly turned his head and roared, I can't let others die for me. Go and save them, as many as you can. I'll block them here. Don't give me any more nonsense. Seven Star stared at Yi Xian with cold eyes. My duty is to protect you. As long as you're alive, we can all die. Yi Xian glared at Seven Star. Then you block them here. I'll go and save them. With that, he suddenly turned into a sword light and charged out. Seeing this, Seven Star flew into a rage. Let your emotions affect your decisions. She was about to chase after him when Mo Shan charged towards her. On the other side, Yi Xian's speed was extremely fast. He turned into a sword light and charged into that pitch-black whirlpool. When he entered that pitch-black whirlpool, an Undying Emperor Army youth was half-kneeling on the ground. His left arm was already missing. If it wasn't for his saber supporting him from the ground, he would have collapsed. And in front of him, there were a total of 45 corpses. Of the 46 people that entered, he was the only one left alive. Not far in front of him, stood over 60 people. All of them were universe enforcers that had rushed over from other places. These were universe enforcers that had rushed over from all over the universe. The leader was a young man. He held a spear in his hand and a saber at his waist. Enforcer Commander. This person was one of the 6 commanders of the universe enforcers, Han Feng. Yi Xian quickly walked in front of the last surviving Undying Emperor Army man. He wasn't old. He was only in his 20s. At this moment, his chest was bleeding non-stop. It was a spear wound. At this moment, he slowly fell down. Yi Xian hurriedly caught him. The young man laid in Yi Xian's embrace. He looked at Yi Xian. His breathing was weak. You. Young master, Yi Xian shook his head. His body gradually trembled. I'm sorry. Within his body, countless amounts of purple energy flowed into the young man's body. The young man turned his head and looked at the corpses on the ground. He was at a loss. My brothers are all dead. As he said that, he looked at Yi Xian. Before coming, Commander Bei said that our mission is to protect your safety. But, we don't even know you. But, orders are like that. We have no choice but to obey the family head's orders. For the family, we can give up everything. Even if it's death. As he said that, he suddenly took out a necklace and stuffed it into Yi Xian's hands. He said with a trembling voice, Lin City, Shao family. Young master. Help me tell. Shao Fei. Tell her. I've broken off the engagement. Please don't tell her that I'm dead. Thank you. As he said that, there was no longer any color in his eyes. The purple energy dispersed from his body again. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. His entire body was trembling. He was too late. When he arrived, the life force in this man's body had already dissipated. The purple energy could heal injuries, but it couldn't bring the dead back to life. Yi Xian gently placed the man on the ground. He looked at the corpses in front of him. He was stunned. They didn't know each other. These people came to protect him, who they didn't know, because of an order, and then they all died here. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. 2 streams of clear liquid flowed down. He clenched his fists and his entire body couldn't stop trembling. You, in the distance, Han Feng suddenly said, sinner of misfortune. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were bloodshot. He roared like a wild beast. Since you say that I'm a sinner, then I'll commit a sin for you to see. As he said that, he directly charged out with his sword in hand. Berserk Demon State. The Berserk Demon bloodline that had been suppressed earlier was activated once again. This time, he completely entered the Berserk Demon State. In his mind, there was only slaughter. At this moment, his killing intent had reached a peak state. Seeing Yi Xian rush over like a madman, Han Feng's eyes narrowed. Kill. As soon as he said that, he directly charged out. His spear was like a dragon, and a cold light shot out. Boom. Boom. Very quickly, a great battle broke out. The entire spatial vortex was directly shattered, and everyone entered the starry sky. After Yi Xian completely entered the Berserk Demon state, his combat strength instantly soared. Especially with the sword spirit in his hand, his combat strength had reached an unprecedented and terrifying level. After all, he was currently in the mortal realm. Although Yi Xian was fighting against dozens of people alone, he still had the advantage in terms of momentum. As the sword light flashed, more and more universal enforcers fell. Every time one of them died, their vitality would be instantly absorbed by Yi Xian. Coupled with the Berserk Demon bloodline, Yi Xian was getting stronger as he fought. In the crowd, Han Feng's expression was extremely ugly. He didn't expect Yi Xian's strength to be so terrifying. Especially Yi Xian's self-recovery ability, it was simply too abnormal. Killing intent. At this moment, there was only one thought in Yi Xian's mind, and that was to kill madly. At this moment, his killing intent swept the surroundings like a wave. Under his powerful killing intent, the minds of the surrounding enforcers were affected. Just like that, the battle continued for an entire hour, and more corpses appeared on the battlefield. At this moment, Yi Xian had killed over 30 enforcers. However, he wasn't in a good state either. Although he had the undying bloodline to recover, his body was still covered in injuries. Especially his shoulder, there was a spear stuck in it. However, Yi Xian was like a killing maniac at the moment. He did not feel pain at all, nor was he afraid of death. The more he fought, the stronger he became. Under the berserk demon state, the power of Yi Xian's bloodline became stronger and stronger as if there was no limit. He was breaking through his limits at every moment. Gradually, more and more universal enforcers fell. Suddenly, Han Feng roared angrily, "Everyone, retreat!" At this moment, there were less than 19 enforcers left by his side. He knew that if they continued fighting like this, then his brothers would die here. Because Yi Xian was truly too abnormal under the enhancement of his two bloodlines. The enforcers immediately stopped and retreated to the side when they heard Han Feng. Han Feng stared fixedly at Yi Xian. "All of you retreat first. I'll stop him." Yi Xian had gone berserk, and he wouldn't allow all of them to retreat. If they wanted to retreat, then someone had to stay behind to cover their retreat. However, none of the enforcers retreated. Han Feng turned to look at the enforcers and roared furiously, "This is an order." The enforcers still didn't move. Han Feng spoke fiercely, "This person isn't normal anymore. If we continue fighting him, then we'll be exhausted to death. All of you retreat quickly." The enforcers still didn't move. Han Feng slowly closed his eyes. He'd brought them here, and he knew that they wouldn't leave. They were his brothers who'd gone through life and death with him countless times. Han Feng looked at Yi Xian, who was charging over from afar, and said fiercely, "Brothers, kill the sinner. Today, we'll either live together or die together." As soon as he finished speaking, he charged out. Behind him, the 19 enforcers roared furiously in unison, "We'll either live together or die together." With that, the 19 enforcers charged out as well. Pust. In the distance, a blood-red sword gleam flashed past, and a bloody head was thrown out. An hour later, only Yi Xian and Han Feng were left on the battlefield. Yi Xian's left arm had almost been chopped off by the saber, and it hung on his shoulder. It would fall off with a gentle pull. A long saber was stabbed into his chest, and his entire body was covered in wounds. Even with the immortal bloodline, he couldn't fully recover. In the distance, Han Feng was in a terrible state as well. There were at least 10 sword wounds on his body, especially on his chest. A sword had pierced through it, and his internal organs could be seen clearly. Moreover, there was a sword aura that was constantly destroying his vitality. Both of them were like arrows at the end of their flight. In the distance, Han Feng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and he looked at Yi Xian with a ferocious expression. "Kill the sinner." With that, he held the spear in his hand and walked towards Yi Xian. However, after taking 2 steps, he fell into a pool of blood. He looked at the horizon and wanted to get up, but he couldn't use any strength at all. At this moment, he saw many afterimages in the depths of the starry sky. When he saw those afterimages, he grinned because those were the enforcers of the universe. Their reinforcements had arrived. Han Feng retracted his gaze and turned to look at the corpses of the enforcers in the distance. His eyes gradually became blank, and his left hand clutched the badge of the enforcer in front of his chest. "Brothers. In the next life, we'll continue to be brothers." As soon as he finished speaking, there was no longer any focus in his eyes. "P.S. I'm not asking for votes, I'm asking for a compliment. Can you compliment my looks?" Chapter 1556. At the moment Han Feng died, Yi Xian slowly collapsed as well. He was also exhausted. Were the enforcers weak? Not at all. Most importantly, they were just like Yi Xian. Every single one of them was unafraid of death. Most of the injuries on his body were exchanged with the enforcers' lives. If it wasn't for the undying bloodline and the mad demon bloodline, he would definitely not be a match for them. Fortunately, there were no experts on the level of Mu Xiaodao in this group of people. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to resist 10 of them, let alone 60. Earlier, Mu Xiaodao had almost killed him with over 10 enforcers. There was a huge gap between the enforcers and Mu Xiaodao. At this moment, a middle-aged man appeared. He wore the signature black robe of the enforcers. He was one of the 6 commanders of the enforcers, Lin Shan. There were 28 enforcers behind Lin Shan. When he saw the corpses of Han Feng and the rest, Lin Shan's face instantly turned gloomy. He looked up at Yi Xian who was nearby. Chop him into pieces. Behind him, a law enforcer dashed towards Yi Xian directly. When the law enforcer was in front of Yi Xian, a beam of sword light suddenly slashed towards him. The law enforcer's expression changed drastically, and he blocked the blade horizontally. Boom! The saber shattered, and the enforcer was instantly sent flying thousands of meters away. At this moment, 3 women appeared behind Yi Xian. They were the mysterious woman and the other 2 women who had rushed over due to the aura of Yi Xian's undying bloodline. The 3 women were dumbfounded when they saw Yi Xian lying in a pool of blood. The mysterious woman suddenly charged towards Yi Xian. When she saw Yi Xian's miserable state, her tears instantly flowed down. No. Xian, No, as she spoke, she hugged Yi Xian, and the tears in her eyes flowed like a broken dam. Regret. At this moment, the mysterious woman felt like her heart was being pricked by needles, and she was close to going mad. Self-blame. Guilt. Regret. The mysterious woman hugged Yi Xian tightly and cried like a child, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She was the one who forced Yi Xian into a desperate situation. Not far away, Tu retracted her gaze from Yi Xian and looked at Lin Shan with bloodshot eyes. Die. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly transformed into a ray of sword light that charged out. This time, she did not use her fists. Because her sword was stronger. At this moment, she only wanted to kill. Lin Shan's expression instantly changed when he saw this strike. What a powerful sword. Lin Shan directly rushed out. On the other side, Mu Nianyan's lips curled into a sinister smile as he charged forward with his sword in hand. The 2 of them were furious. As soon as they exchanged blows, the 2 women were crushed. Directly crushed. Especially when they were enraged, their combat strength was simply off the charts. At the side, Xiao Ta slowly floated out from within Yi Xian's body, and Xiao Ta was shocked when he saw the mysterious woman. Fuck. Save me. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and ran. The mysterious woman was speechless. At this moment, the woman's right hand suddenly made a grabbing motion, and the small pagoda was instantly caught in her hand. Xiao Ta begged, the mysterious woman hurriedly said, quickly give him violet energy. Xiao Ta hesitated for a moment, and then he said, if this chapter isn't finished, please continue. The mysterious woman spoke furiously, what? Quickly give him violet energy. Xiao Ta hesitated for a moment before he said, young master is fine. The mysterious woman gazed at Yi Xian when she heard this. As expected, the injuries throughout Yi Xian's body were slowly recovering. The mysterious woman instantly heaved a sigh of relief when she witnessed this scene. Actually, if he relied solely on the immortal bloodline, then Yi Xian would be dead by now. In the end, it wasn't just the immortal bloodline that saved him, but the violet energy as well. Meanwhile, Xiao Ta spoke softly, young master's insanity demon bloodline. The mysterious woman gazed at Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian's entire body was still blood red, and the insanity demon bloodline was growing stronger. The reason Yi Xian hadn't completely woken up was because of the insanity demon bloodline. The mysterious woman fell silent for a moment before she placed her right hand lightly on Yi Xian's shoulder, and a mysterious force entered Yi Xian's body. At this moment, the insanity demon bloodline suddenly boiled. Resist. The mysterious woman withdrew her hand when she witnessed this scene. She didn't dare use force because Yi Xian was too weak right now. As if she'd thought of something, she gazed at the sword in Yi Xian's hand. Sword spirit, I need your help. After a moment of silence, the sword spirit trembled slightly. The mysterious woman placed her right hand on Yi Xian's shoulder again, and it didn't take long for a mysterious force to enter Yi Xian's body. The insanity demon bloodline resisted once more, and it was even more intense than before. It had a bad temper. Right at this moment, the sword spirit suddenly transformed into a ray of blood-red light that entered Yi Xian's body. Bang! Yi Xian's body stiffened, and the insanity demon bloodline within Yi Xian's body gradually calmed down. On the other hand, Yi Xian's body gradually returned to normal. A trace of a smile appeared on the mysterious woman's face when she witnessed this scene. Meanwhile, the battle in the distance had ended. Over 10 corpses lay by Mu Niannian and Tu's sides, and only Lin Shan was still alive. However, Lin Shan was half dead at this moment, and a sword was stuck in his chest. It was unknown whether it was Tu's or Niannian's. Lin Shan stared fixedly at the two women before him and was about to speak when Mu Niannian suddenly pressed her fingers together and slashed. Hiss! Lin Shan's head flew into the air. Mu Niannian turned around and walked over to Yi Xian's side. When she saw that Yi Xian's arm had been severed, her expression instantly turned gloomy. Tu's eyes were scarlet red, and he didn't conceal his killing intent at all. Right at this moment, Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. When he saw the mysterious woman for the first time, Yi Xian's expression instantly changed, and he jumped to the side. Fuck! You chased me all the way here to kill me. Needless to say, he was really shocked at this moment. Damn it. I actually encountered this woman here. How long has this woman been chasing after me? What kind of deep hatred does she have? The mysterious woman's expression froze. At this moment, Yi Xian saw Tu and Mu Niannian. When he saw them, Yi Xian was overjoyed. Sister Nian. Mu Niannian smiled faintly. She walked over to Yi Xian's side and gently patted Yi Xian's head. She smiled. How do you feel now? Yi Xian grinned. Much better. As he spoke, he looked at Tuesday. You're here too. Tu nodded slightly, and his expression was gloomy. I'm late. Tu still couldn't let go of the fact that Yi Xian had been bullied to this extent. Yi Xian grinned. It's good that you're still alive. It's good that you're still alive. In fact, when he had completely entered a state of madness, he had already given up on living. At that moment, he only wanted to kill. As if he had thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly looked at the mysterious woman. If this chapter is not finished, please continue to the next page. He opened his palm, and a sword appeared in his hand. Sister Nian, let's join forces. We can definitely kill this demon woman. Mu Niannian, too, the mysterious woman lowered her head slightly, and no one knew what she was thinking. Yi Xian sensed that the atmosphere was a little strange. He looked at Nian. Sister Nian, what's going on? Mu Niannian hesitated for a moment. If I said that she's your biological mother, would you believe me? Yi Xian blinked. Sister Nian, this joke isn't funny at all. Mu Niannian looked at Yi Xian. I'm not joking. The smile on Yi Xian's face gradually disappeared. He knew that Sister Nian usually wouldn't joke around with him. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Sister Nian, have you forgotten how she treated me in the past? In order to kill me, she would do anything. How could she be my biological mother? Moreover, my biological mother is Du Xian. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said softly, I'm sorry. Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman. I think this is a little absurd. The mysterious woman looked at Yi Xian. I am indeed your biological mother. Yi Xian smiled. Then who is Du Xian? The mysterious woman said softly, she's my older sister. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Your older sister? The mysterious woman nodded. She's also from the Undying Emperor clan. However, due to some special reasons, her bloodline was taken away. Yi Xian looked at the mysterious woman. This time, it was you who asked the Undying Emperor clan's experts to help me? The mysterious woman nodded. Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then shook his head. I still don't understand. If you're really my mother, why did you target me so desperately before? Could it be that you wanted to train me? But it doesn't seem like it. You're really trying to kill me. The mysterious woman was a little embarrassed. Of course, she felt even more guilty. All these years, not only did she not fulfill her responsibility as a mother, she even forced her own son to die. At this moment, Yi Xian said again. Moreover, what I don't understand is that you knew I had the undying bloodline. Logically speaking, even if you didn't know I was your son, we should be related since we share the same bloodline. Why did you force me to die so crazily? The mysterious woman said softly, I thought you were my older sister's son. Yi Xian blinked. Do you have such a deep grudge against your older sister? The mysterious woman wanted to say something, but stopped. At this moment, Mu Niannian suddenly said. She thought you died back then. That's why she wanted to take revenge on her older sister. But the truth is, you didn't die back then. That's why it's like this now. As she spoke, she recounted the old stories that Miss Ding had told her before. After hearing Mu Niannian's words, Yi Xian was silent. Actually, he felt that it was a little too ridiculous. She was a mortal enemy just a while ago, but now she was his biological mother? Didn't this mean that he couldn't take revenge? He was beaten for nothing? How could a biological mother beat her son for nothing? No way. Yi Xian was about to speak when a huge black vortex suddenly appeared in the starry sky, and then a woman walked out. It was Mu Xiaodao. With Mu Xiaodao's appearance, the leader of the undead clan, Dongli Jing, also appeared. After Mu Xiaodao appeared, she opened her palm, and a flying dagger appeared in her hand. At this moment, she glanced at Nian Nian and the others, and then she blinked and said, Sorry to disturb you. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and ran. She confirmed that she couldn't defeat so many people. Everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 1557. The reason why Little Air was able to suppress Nian Nian and Tu back then was mainly because of the disaster law. If it wasn't for the disaster law suppressing Nian Nian and Tu, in a one-on-one battle, she would at most have a 50-50 chance of defeating them. Seeing Mu Xiaodao escape, Yi Xian shouted angrily, Hack her to death. Saying that, he chased after her. Don't let this knife-wielding woman go. This woman is too shameless. Moreover, she knows when to yield and when to stand tall. If she lives, she will become a huge problem in the future. Mu Niannian and Tu were even faster. In the instant that Mu Xiaodao escaped, the two girls had already chased after him. Yi Xian also wanted to chase, but the mysterious woman suddenly shook her head. It's too late. Yi Xian was stunned and was about to speak when Mu Niannian and Tu returned. Mu Niannian shook her head, she ran too fast. Yi Xian was speechless. Damn, this woman ran so fast. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said, We have to return to the undead tribe first. Hearing that, Yi Xian suddenly turned and left. Mu Niannian and the other two were stunned and quickly followed. Yi Xian rushed to the nine-dimensional cosmic barrier. When he arrived, there was only one person left. Big Dipper. Yi Xian quickly walked in front of Big Dipper. Big Dipper's injuries were serious, but fortunately, she had the undead bloodline, so it was not fatal. Yi Xian opened his palm, and countless purple energy surged out of his palm and entered Big Dipper's body. With the purple energies healing, Big Dipper's injuries healed even faster. Yi Xian looked around. Where are the enforcers? Big Dipper wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Gone. Gone. Yi Xian frowned. These enforcers retreated very quickly. Big Dipper suddenly looked at the mysterious woman. You are the third miss? The mysterious woman nodded. Big Dipper was about to speak when Dongli Jing suddenly said, The Cosmos God Court will not let this go. Let's return to the undead tribe first. Yi Xian suddenly said, Wait. With that, he turned around and disappeared. The girls looked in the direction in which Yi Xian had left. Soon, they discovered that Yi Xian had arrived at the battlefield. Yi Xian looked at the experts of the Undying Emperor clan who had died in battle. He bowed deeply to their corpses, then put them away. Then, he returned to the nine-dimensional barrier. Yasushi glanced at Yi Xian and said, "Let's go." Just as she was about to enter the nine-dimensional universe, a flying dagger suddenly flew towards her from afar. Higashi Yasushi frowned, turned around, and threw a punch. Boom! The flying dagger was forced to stop. At this moment, another flying dagger slashed over. The mysterious woman at the side suddenly took a step forward and struck out with her palm. There was a blood-red flame on her palm. Boom! The flying knife was forcibly stopped by this palm. At this moment, the mysterious woman and Higashi Yasushi suddenly attacked again. Boom! The two flying daggers were sent flying. Everyone looked over and saw that it was Mu Xiaodao who had attacked. Mu Xiaodao blinked. "I'm back." Higashi Yasushi gazed at Mu Xiaodao and slowly clenched his right fist. Mu Xiaodao opened her palm, and a flying dagger appeared in her hand. She smiled and said, "I now announce that your Undying Emperor clan will be annihilated." A wisp of disdain curled up the corners of Higashi Yasushi's mouth. "You?" Mu Xiaodao suddenly pointed above her head. Everyone looked in the direction she was pointing. Bang! An expanse of space suddenly split open above Mu Xiaodao, and then a middle-aged man walked out from within it. The middle-aged man wore a black robe, and his hair was tied up high. He had a scholarly aura between his brows, and he gave others the feeling that he was quiet. Mu Xiao. He was the boss of the Universal Enforcers, and he was in charge of all the Universal Enforcers. Behind Mu Xiao, 10 black-clothed men appeared soundlessly. These 10 black-clothed men all held a dagger in their hands, and they were like ghosts. Behind these 10 black-clothed men, there were 4 middle-aged men, 2 of whom were, "This chapter isn't finished. Please continue." They were Yen Emo and Emo Shan. Both of them were commanders of the Universe Enforcers, and the other 2 were commanders of the Universe Enforcers as well. Behind the 4 of them, there were 120 people. All of them were Universe Enforcers. Other than the dead Universe Enforcers, almost all the Universe Enforcers of the Cosmos God Court had rushed here. At this moment, a few hundred meters to the right of Mu Xiao, the space there suddenly split open, and an old man walked out. The old man wore a loose white robe, and he held a black ancient book in his hands. On the book, there were 2 large black words, God Technique. Sage. In the Cosmos God Court, there was a group of people who specialized in spells and secret techniques. These people were called sages. And these people possessed the most ancient secret techniques and spells in the universe. Sages were also split into different levels. Even though the person in front of them wasn't at the peak, he was still a sage master. One must know that above the sage master was the God Word Master, and there were only 2 God Word Masters in the entire Cosmos God Court. Behind the old man, there were 2 people, 1 male and 1 female. From their appearance, they seemed to be around 30 years old, and they were both holding a sheathed sword in their hands. It wasn't over yet. A few hundred meters to the right of Mu Xiaodao, the space there suddenly split open, and a white-robed man walked out. This man was wearing a robe as white as snow, and he was holding a long spear in his hands. It was an extremely ordinary wooden spear. Below, Yi Xian's face sunk. There wasn't a single weakling among these people. The Cosmos God Court, the most ancient and mysterious power in the universe, was slowly emerging. In the distance, the boss of the Universe Enforcers, Mu Xiao, suddenly looked at Mu Xiaodao. "Miss Mu, how are we going to fight?" Mu Xiaodao pointed at Yi Xian. "I'll fight this one, I'll leave the rest to you guys." Yi Xian, Mu Xiao glanced at Yi Xian and the rest, and his face sunk. This woman was the strongest on their side, but she chose the weakest person on the other side. Only this woman would do such a thing. The white-robed man from the Cosmos God Court suddenly said, "Miss Mu, you're strong, you can fight the Undying Race's leader, what do you think?" Mu Xiaodao immediately shook her head. I won't fight this woman. She wasn't afraid of Dongli Jing, but this woman couldn't be beaten to death. That undying bloodline was like a pervert. As long as she wasn't instantly killed, she would be able to continuously recover. If the two of them fought, they could fight for 10 years. Hearing Mu Xiaodao's words, the white-robed man was speechless. Amongst the 6 universe law protectors, Mu Xiaodao was the most shameless, and also the most unreasonable. Moreover, she could do anything. For example, betray her teammates. The moment she realized that she couldn't win, she would immediately flee. This woman was simply the best in the Cosmos God Court. However, she was really strong. Therefore, even though many people didn't like her, they didn't dare to offend her. Strength was secondary, the most important thing was that this woman knew how to play dirty. Mu Xiaodao glanced at the white-robed man and the rest. Are you guys fighting? If not, then I'm leaving. Hearing this, everyone's expressions instantly turned slightly unsightly. At this moment, the divine sage suddenly said, "Leave the Undying Clan's patriarch to me." The white-robed man looked at two below. "Leave this woman to me." Below, two directly shot into the sky and slashed at the white-robed man. A single slash shook the heavens and the earth. In midair, the white-robed man narrowed his eyes. What a strong swordsman. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly vanished on the spot. Bang! A crack in the space was blasted open. Within the pitch-black spatial hole, two directly suppressed the white-robed man. However, the white-robed man was strong as well. Even though he was suppressed, he didn't show any signs of losing. Mu Xiao looked at Mu Nianyan below. "Leave this woman to me." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly took a step forward, and below him, Mu Nianyan suddenly drew her sword. A sword hum shook the starry sky. Soon, Mu Nianyan and Mu Xiao started fighting, and Mu Nianyan still held the upper hand, suppressing Mu Xiao. This chapter isn't finished, please continue to the next page. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly looked at a sword-wielding woman behind the divine sage. "You go and beat the one with the blade from the Undying Emperor clan." She was referring to 7-Star. 7-Star looked up at the sword-wielding woman, and the two women looked at each other. In the next moment, the two women simultaneously vanished on the spot. Bang! In the starry sky, a wave of sword light and blade light violently exploded. Mu Xiaodao then looked at the enforcers. "Follow me and beat up that sinner of misfortune." Yi Xian's face was filled with black lines. Damn it! This woman was bullying the weak, and she still wanted to gang up on him? 120 enforcers, and 4 universe enforcer commanders. Other than that, there were also 10 people who looked extremely powerful. This was too much. At this moment, Dongli Yasuda suddenly sneered, "Bullying the weak with numbers? Don't you know whose territory this is?" As soon as he finished speaking, countless strong people appeared in the surroundings. There were tens of thousands of them. All of them were the strongest people in the 8th dimension. Although their overall strength was slightly weaker than these enforcers, they had the numbers advantage. Other than that, within the entire 8th dimension, countless large arrays appeared, and these large arrays targeted the enforcers. However, this was not the end. From the space channel leading to the 9 dimensions, a powerful aura suddenly appeared. The next moment, a group of experts wearing armor and holding long spears rushed out. Dao soldiers. The Undying Emperor clan had nurtured a total of 30,000 Dao soldiers. Leading them was a middle-aged man. Dongli Ting. Dao soldier commanders. Dongli Yasuda suddenly pointed at the distant Yi Xian. "Protect the young master." Dongli Ting looked at Yi Xian, and in the next moment, he knelt on one knee. "We pledge our lives to protect the young master." Behind him, tens of thousands of people knelt on one knee. "We pledge our lives to protect the young master." Yi Xian was about to speak, but at this moment, behind him, 19 black figures suddenly appeared without a sound. These 19 people were like shadows, closely guarding beside him. The auras of these 19 people were even stronger than those of the enforcers. Yi Xian was slightly shocked. because he didn't even notice when these 19 people had appeared behind him. However, this wasn't the end. Within the spatial tunnel, dragon roars suddenly sounded, and in the next moment, a powerful aura swept out from the spatial tunnel. The aura was like a mountain flood, crushing everything. In next to no time, a group of cavalrymen clad in armor and wielding spears charged out from the spatial passageway while riding on enormous dragons. Undying Blood Cavalry. As a superpower that ruled the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th dimensions, how could the Undying Emperor clan not have an army? This Undying Blood Cavalry was the most elite cavalry of the Undying Emperor clan. There weren't many of them, only 1,000. However, when these 1,000 cavalrymen charged in formation, just their aura alone could split the heavens and shatter the earth. As soon as the 1,000 Undying Blood Knights charged out, everyone in the surroundings felt a strand of pressure descend upon them. Even Yi Xian felt an extremely strong pressure, and he had no choice but to use his sword intent to resist. At this moment, the commander of the Undying Blood Cavalry suddenly looked at Yi Xian, and in the next moment, he put away his spear and slightly lowered his head. "Greetings, young master." Behind him, the 1,000 Undying Blood Cavalry simultaneously lowered their heads, and said in unison, "Greetings, young master." And the 1,000 giant dragons beneath them also suddenly lowered their heads, in a subservient posture. Yi Xian was somewhat dumbfounded. At this moment, the spatial tunnel that led to the 9th dimension suddenly trembled. There were more experts rushing over. Looking at the experts of the 9th dimension kneeling on one knee in front of him, Yi Xian softly sighed. At this moment, Xiao Ta asked, "Young master, why are you sighing?" Yi Xian looked towards the horizon and softly said, "In the past, when I said that I was the son of the 9th dimension, not only did they not believe me, they even said that I was bragging." Xiao Ta. P.S. Yesterday, a reader told me that I can publish it on time. This way, I won't be late anymore. That's great. End of this chapter. Chapter 1558. Thousands of people charged out from the spatial tunnel. They were all wearing silver armor, feathered helmets, and had long bows on their backs. 3,600 people. Divine Feather Guards. These were the divine archers that the Undying Emperor clan had carefully nurtured. They were also an army that was as famous as the Undying Blood Cavalry. In the secular world, armies could not contend against peak experts. But in the 9-dimensional universe, it was different. Because these armies were made up of super experts. Why was the Undying Emperor clan so powerful? Other than their own bloodlines, there was another important reason. The Undying Emperor clan controlled 3 super-dimensional universes, as well as 10 worlds. Simply put, the Undying Emperor clan controlled an enormous amount of resources and talents. Every year, these worlds would provide the Undying Emperor clan with an endless supply of talents. As long as they were geniuses or monsters, they would be absorbed by the Undying Emperor clan. And these armies of the Undying Emperor clan were all made up of super geniuses and monsters. In addition, they had the support of the Undying Emperor clan's resources. Thus, these people were extremely powerful. Just like this Divine Feather Guard. In terms of individual strength, they were not much weaker than the Universe Enforcers. In addition, they had the advantage in numbers. Even if they faced the Universe Enforcers, they would not be afraid. After this Divine Feather Guard appeared, everyone clenched their right fists and placed them on their chests. Then, they bowed slightly to Yi Xian. Young Master. The Undying Emperor clan had not had a young master for countless years. And this generation's young master was different from the past. Because this generation's young master had 2 super bloodlines. He was the future hope of the Undying Emperor clan. Before coming, the clan's elders had given them a death order. They had to protect the young master at all costs. It could be said that Yi Xian's identity had been decided by the clan leader and the Undying Emperor clan's elders. Not only was it legal, it was also very special. Seeing everyone bow to him, Yi Xian felt complicated. He was still a bit confused about his identity as the Undying Emperor clan's young master. As the Undying Emperor clan's experts continued to appear, the situation instantly reversed. Not far away, Mu Xiaodao's expression was incomparably gloomy. This was awkward. They did not compete in numbers. She was already preparing to flee. If she could win, she would fight. If she couldn't, she would not fight. If you want to live long, you must learn to be humble. As if he knew what Mu Xiaodao was thinking, the nearby divine diviner suddenly sent a voice transmission. Guardian, if you retreat now, then all of us will die here. Mu Xiaodao blinked his eyes. Who told you not to get more people? This was especially so for the Hall of Menyan. They had only sent 3 of them. What were they thinking? Are you looking down on the Undying Imperial clan? The Divine Word Master said in a deep voice, it is not that we look down on the Undying Imperial clan. Merely, we never expected that the Undying Imperial clan would actually fight to the death for this person. Guardian, you must not retreat. There are already super experts from our palace rushing over. If you retreat, the people here will be in danger. At this moment, he was really worried. If it was any other law enforcer, he wouldn't be worried. But this Mu Xiaodao, this woman, didn't act according to common sense. She would really do something like betraying her teammates. In the entire Cosmos God Court, other than the laws of their universe, no one else could control them. Mu Xiaodao said indifferently, who came to the Hall of Speech. The divine sage said in a deep voice, the white-robed priest has arrived. White-robed divine sage. Mu Xiaodao's expression changed slightly. However, she still didn't speak. The divine sage said again, other than that, the Dark Hall's divine guards have arrived. The one leading them is the mistress of the Dark Hall. Also, another guardian is already rushing over here. Guardian. Mu Xiaodao hurriedly asked, do you know who it is? The divine sage shook his head. I don't know. Mu Xiaodao said softly, who could it be? At this moment, a man suddenly appeared beside Dongli Jing. This person was Nan Xing, who was in charge of intelligence. Nan Xing said in a deep voice, Patriarch, there is a group of super experts rushing towards us through the star field. They are very strong. Our people can't stop them. In at most 15 minutes, they will appear here. Dongli Jing looked at Mu Xiaodao. There was a rare trace of seriousness in her eyes. How strong was the Cosmos God Court? She didn't know either. This was because the Cosmos God Court rarely appeared in the eyes of the world. Even to the Undying Imperial clan, the Cosmos God Court was very mysterious. Now, there were experts from the Cosmos God Court rushing over. This proved that the Cosmos God Court wasn't afraid of the Undying Imperial clan. They also chose to fight the Undying Imperial clan head-on. At this point, Dongli Jing suddenly turned to look at Yi Xian. Double bloodline. Mortal sword. Seeing Dongli Jing look over, Yi Xian was about to speak. Dongli Jing suddenly transmitted his Xian Qi, little fella, you have to cooperate with me later. Yi Xian was slightly confused. How? Dongli Jing said, there is a group of super experts from the Cosmos God Court rushing over. I don't know how strong they are. If they are too strong, I will need to mobilize a mysterious army of the Undying Imperial clan. However, this mysterious army is stationed in the Undying world. They will only act when the family is in danger. I need them to leave the Undying world. In order for them to leave the Undying world, I need a reason that they can't refuse. I need to display all my talent. The more outstanding I am, the more I can move them. Yi Xian said solemnly, Patriarch, even you can't mobilize them? Dongli Jing nodded. I can. However, I need a reasonable reason. Moreover, I need to raise their morale. Yi Xian went silent. Dongli Jing continued, little fella, we are a big family. Families like this are usually the most snobbish. If you have potential and value, the family will protect you at all costs. If you don't have potential or your value isn't high enough, the family will consider if it's worth it. I can suppress other voices in the family. However, I hope to do it in a different way. That is to let everyone in the family feel that it's worth risking their lives for me. Risking their lives. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, he thought of the young man from the undying imperial army. These people were risking their lives for him. However, they didn't even know who he was. If it was him, would he risk his life for someone he didn't know? Value. Dongli Jing's words were very direct. If there was value, if it could bring benefits and hope to the family, then everyone would fight for it. If there was no value, if it couldn't bring benefits and hope to the family, then it was useless even if he was the patriarch's son. Of course, he understood the other meaning behind Dongli Jing's words. That was, he, Yi Xian, had to take a stand. Right now, the people from the undying imperial clan all treated Yi Xian as their young master. However, what about Yi Xian himself? Did he have any sense of belonging to the undying imperial clan? His, Yi Xian's, attitude was very important. If the undying imperial clan risked their lives in exchange for a young master who didn't have any sense of belonging to the undying imperial clan, Yi Xian collected his thoughts. He opened his palm and a necklace appeared in his hand. This was what the young man from the undying imperial army had given him before he died. Yi Xian looked at the necklace in silence for a moment. Then, he turned to look at his surroundings. At this moment, countless experts from the undying imperial clan were waiting information. These people were here to protect him, Yi Xian. By the side, Dongli Jing looked at Yi Xian. What she wanted was Yi Xian's attitude. The undying imperial clan was really determined to fight the Cosmos God Court to the death. Yi Xian's attitude was very important. It wasn't just her. The higher-ups of the undying imperial clan were also waiting for Yi Xian's attitude. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly walked out. He held a long sword in his hand and pointed it at the distant Mu Shaodao. Universe Guardian, I, Yi Xian, the young master of the undying imperial clan, challenge you on behalf of the undying imperial clan. Boom! As he spoke, a powerful aura surged out from Yi Xian's body. The aura of the undying bloodline. At this moment, everyone turned to look at Yi Xian. Undying bloodline. Pure undying bloodline. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that Yi Xian was challenging the Cosmos Guardian. No one here was a weakling. They could naturally tell that the strongest person on the Cosmos God Court side was the Cosmos Guardian, Mu Shaodao. And now, their young master had actually. He directly challenged the strongest, Mu Shaodao. In an instant, the blood of countless undying imperial clan members boiled. Their morale soared. When he heard Yi Xian's words, Dongli Jing slowly closed his eyes. Everything he did was worth it. A smile appeared on the mysterious woman's face. She naturally hoped that Yi Xian would acknowledge the undying imperial clan. After all, this was her clan. In the sky, Mu Shaodao looked at Yi Xian, one-on-one. Yi Xian laughed, yes. Mu Shaodao fell silent. At this moment, the experts of the Cosmos God Court were also looking at her. If Mu Shaodao retreated now, then the Cosmos God Court would lose all face. Meanwhile, Mu Shaodao suddenly smiled. You want a one-on-one fight? Sure. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly took a step forward. In the next moment, her soul was unsheathed, and a flying dagger appeared above her head. Her soul grabbed the flying dagger and slashed forward. God slaying. As soon as this strike was executed, the world here instantly became illusory. Everyone sensed a powerful attack from the blade. The expressions of all the experts from the undying imperial clan changed when they witnessed this scene. That attack was too strong. Even Dongli Jing's eyes were filled with seriousness at this moment. She could block that attack, but what about Yi Xian? Under everyone's gaze, Yi Xian suddenly took another step forward. Bang! A red aura suddenly shot into the sky from within him, and in an instant, the entire sky was dyed blood red. Mad Demon Bloodline. Yi Xian had entered a mad demon state, and he'd gone completely mad without even a trace of consciousness left. 2 bloodlines. All the experts from the undying imperial clan were shocked. But this wasn't the end of it. Yi Xian took another step forward. The sword domain. It wasn't just the sword domain, there was the slaughter domain, the death domain, and the blood domain. 4 domains. The shock in the hearts of all the spectators had transformed into astonishment. However, this wasn't the end of it. Yi Xian took another step forward and stabbed with his sword. It was a very ordinary attack, and it didn't even carry a trace of sword energy. However, the expressions of Dongli Jing and the others had changed. The mortal realm. It wasn't just the mortal realm, it was the mortal sword. The sword pierced through the flying dagger. Bang! The starry sky and the surroundings was obliterated inch by inch, and all the experts retreated in unison. Yi Xian didn't retreat. He didn't even take a single step back. Because he knew that he couldn't, because he would weaken his momentum if he did. Yi Xian had forcefully suppressed the power within Mu Xiaodao's flying knife with his 4 domains. However, he had to pay a price for it. His face had instantly turned pale as a sheet, and his internal organs had been torn apart. Fortunately, he had the undying bloodline and primordial violet aura. Otherwise, he might have died on the spot. Just like that, Yi Xian used his 4 domains to forcefully resist Mu Xiaodao's attack, and he forcefully swallowed the blood in his mouth over and over again. Yi Xian stood ramrod straight with his back towards the experts from the undying imperial clan. At this moment, they felt like Yi Xian was a god of war. Moreover, all of them were shocked. How did Yi Xian block that attack so easily? Actually, he didn't even have the strength to move. However, he forced himself to act as if he was fine. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly raised his head to look at Mu Xiaodao, and a wisp of ridicule arose on the corners of his mouth. Is that all the guardians of the universe have? If all of them are like this, then I, Yi Xian, can take on 9 of them. Everyone was speechless. It didn't matter if he could win or not. What was important was that he had to act tough. In any case, acting tough wasn't against the law. Right at this moment, someone suddenly shouted. The young master is invincible. A moment of silence ensued. The young master is invincible. The young master is invincible. The young master is invincible. Voice after voice resounded through the battlefield and into the depths of the starry sky. Chapter 1559. Mu Xiaodao stared fixedly at Yi Xian. She really didn't understand why this fellow makes it seem like he's won. Didn't they just exchange a single blow? Actually, she was quite shocked that Yi Xian had been able to resist her attack. Because Yi Xian hadn't taken a single step back. After all, she hadn't held back at all just now. Under normal circumstances, Yi Xian wouldn't have been able to resist it. But he'd resisted it. Not only had he resisted it, he'd even seemed to do it with ease. The most intolerable part was that he'd actually said that he wanted to fight 9 guardians of the laws of the universe. Meanwhile, Mu Xiaodao suddenly gazed at Yi Xian's hand, and she noticed that Yi Xian's hand seemed to be trembling. A thought arose in her mind when she saw this. Is he putting on a show? When she thought up to this point, she opened her palm, and another throwing knife appeared in her grasp. She was about to launch another attack. She would definitely be able to see through Yi Xian's strength with this attack. Suddenly, Yi Xian pointed the sword in his right hand towards the ground while he placed his left hand behind his back. A light breeze blew past, and his sleeves fluttered. The elegant demeanor of a swordsman was on full display. Meanwhile, Yi Xian's mind had recovered slightly with the help of the sword spirit. So long as he didn't suffer too much of a shock, then the sword spirit would be able to help him regain consciousness. Mu Xiaodao was just about to attack when Yi Xian suddenly shouted, Mu Xiaodao. His voice rumbled like thunder and shook the starry sky. Mu Xiaodao, who was about to attack, gazed at Yi Xian with a puzzled expression. What are you doing? Yi Xian roared with laughter. A mere guardian of the laws isn't worthy of me, Yi Xian. You aren't worthy. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left swiftly. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned when they heard this. Did Mu Xiaodao lose? All of them exchanged glances. Meanwhile, someone shouted from the crowd, the young master is invincible. The young master is invincible. Countless experts from the undying imperial clan began to shout in succession. The voices grew louder and louder. The group of Cosmos God Court experts were still stunned. Did our guardian of the laws of the universe lose? They all looked at Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao was also somewhat dumbfounded. Had he lost? He didn't lose. But why did this guy make it sound like he had already lost? How could they play like that? Mu Xiaodao shook her head and looked at Yi Xian. Come out, let's continue fighting. At this moment, she was enraged. Damn it. In terms of shamelessness, he had met his match this time. Down below, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, his undying bloodline and purple chi were madly repairing his body. Healing. Hurry up and heal. That saber strike just now almost took his life. Seeing that Yi Xian did not respond, Mu Xiaodao suddenly said angrily, Come on, continue fighting. As she spoke, she opened her palm and the flying knife in her hands suddenly flew out and slashed towards Yi Xian. The corner of Yi Xian's mouth twitched when he saw the blade coming at him. How could he block it? At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian and punched out. Her fist was burning with flames. Boom! The mysterious woman blocked the flying knife with a single punch. In the sky, Mu Xiaodao looked at the mysterious woman. Didn't you say one-on-one? The mysterious woman was about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Mu Xiaodao. I've already received your saber strike. Now, it's your turn to receive my sword strike. Do you dare? Mu Xiaodao Qingqing, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent and no virtue. From this moment onwards, Yi Xian's position as prince will be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man stood a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides were the Yi clan's elders. Why? At this moment, a timid voice suddenly sounded in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor, and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This little girl was called Yi Ling and was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the clan wanted to dismiss Yi Xian, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. Yi Ling, what are you doing? The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to the people in the ancestral hall and said timidly, Great Elder, my brother Yi Xian is a prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Great Elder looked coldly at Yi Ling. This is a matter of the clan. Why are you interrupting? Leave. Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family, and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince. This is truly unfair. Impudent. The Great Elder suddenly raged. Whether or not he is crippled is not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time, the new Prince Yi Lang suddenly laughed. He should be flogged 30 times as a warning to others. The Great Elder replied coldly, then flog him 30 times. Very quickly, Yi clan's guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists and said angrily, "This is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years. Even now, he is fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him." One of the guards glanced at the new Prince Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, "Young Master Yi Lang inherits the title of prince. What are you yelling about?" As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap was heard. Yi Ling's right cheek instantly turned red and swollen. However, she did not cry. She only covered her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard and smiled, "What's your name?" The guard hurriedly bowed. "Subordinate Jianghu greets the crown prince." Yi Lang nodded, "You're not bad. After I become the prince, I will need 10 guards. You can be my guard from now on." Hearing this, Jianghu was overjoyed. He quickly bowed deeply, "Subordinate will go through fire and water for the prince. I will do anything for you." Yi Lang nodded, "Drag him away. This person is disturbing the ancestral hall. Don't hold back." "Understood." Jianghu glanced at Yi Lang. When he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Jianghu suddenly stopped as if he had seen something. Inside the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside the hall. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe. The robe was tattered and covered in blood. The young man was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The great elder narrowed his eyes. His face was dark and gloomy. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Jianghu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. "Who gave you the guts to touch my sister?" When Jianghu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He looked at Yi Lang and was about to speak. At this moment, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Pung! Jianghu felt dizzy, and he stumbled and fell. Yi Lang did not stop there. He charged at Jianghu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, "Yi Xian, he's my man. How dare you!" Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Jianghu's chest. Pooh! Jianghu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly. Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, "Your man?" As he spoke, he stomped on Jianghu's face. Jianghu's face turned into a bloody mess, as he screamed, "Prince, save me!" Yi Xian ignored Jianghu. Walking up to Yi Ling, seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced apart. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed, "Brother, it hurts, it hurts." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant, he charged in front of Jianghu and kicked Jianghu's head. Pung! Qingcheng, Yi Clan, Ancestral Hall. Ancestors, Yi Xian has no talent, no virtue. From now on, Yi Xian's position as prince shall be replaced by Yi Lang. The one who spoke was an old man in black robes. Not far behind the old man, there was a youth with a faint smile on his face. This person was Yi Lang. On both sides, there were the Yi clan elders. Why? At this time, a timid voice rang out in the ancestral hall. Everyone turned to look and saw a little girl standing at the door. She was about 12 or 13 years old, and her hands were tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face had a sickly pallor, and she looked a little weak. There was even a trace of fear in her eyes. This girl was called Yi Ling, and she was Yi Xian's younger sister. When she heard that the clan wanted to remove Yi Xian, she disregarded her illness and rushed over. The black-robed old man frowned. "Yi Ling, what are you doing?" The little girl called Yi Ling bowed to everyone in the ancestral hall, and asked timidly, Great Elder, my brother, Yi Xian, is the prince. Why did you cripple him for no reason? The Great Elder looked at Yi Ling coldly. This is a matter of the clan. What are you interrupting for? Leave. Yi Ling was clearly a little fearful. She did not dare to look the Great Elder in the eye, but she did not leave. Instead, she mustered up her courage and walked into the ancestral hall. She bowed to the elders on both sides of the hall and said, Elders, my brother is currently fighting with the Li family for the mining rights of the mine in Nanshan. He is now fighting for the family, and it is unknown whether he is alive or dead. However, the family has used a groundless excuse to remove his position as the crown prince. Impudent. The Great Elder suddenly raged, whether he's crippled or not, it's not up to a little girl like you to decide. Men, drag her away. At this time, the new prince, Yi Lang, suddenly laughed. He should be flogged 30 times, as a warning to others. The Great Elder replied coldly, then flog him 30 times. Very quickly, Ti clan guards rushed in. Yi Ling clenched her fists, and said angrily, this is unfair. My brother has risked his life for the clan for so many years, and even now, he's fighting for the clan. The clan is unfair to him. One of the guards glanced at the new prince, Yi Lang. He knew that this was his chance to shine. The guard sneered, young master Yi Lang inherits the prince's position. What are you yelling about? As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped Yi Ling's face. Slap. A crisp slap sounded, and the right side of Yi Ling's face instantly swelled up. However, she did not cry, and only held her cheek tightly. Yi Lang looked at the guard, and smiled, what's your name? The guard quickly bowed, this subordinate, Jianghu, greets the prince. Yi Lang nodded, you're not bad. After I become the prince, I'll need 10 guards. From now on, you'll be my guard. Hearing this, Jianghu was overjoyed, and quickly bowed deeply. This subordinate is willing to go through fire and water for the prince, even if it means death. Yi Lang nodded, drag him away. This person is causing trouble in the ancestral hall. Don't hold back, understand? Jianghu glanced at Yi Lang, and when he saw the murderous intent in Yi Lang's eyes, he understood. He immediately grabbed Yi Ling's hair and dragged her out. At this moment, Jianghu seemed to have seen something, and he suddenly stopped. Inside the ancestral hall, everyone turned their heads to look outside the hall. Not far from the ancestral hall, a young man was walking towards the ancestral hall. The young man was wearing a tight-fitting robe, and the robe was tattered, and there was blood everywhere. The young man was Yi Xian, who had rushed back from Nanshan. Seeing Yi Xian, Yi Lang's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the ancestral hall, the elders frowned. The Great Elder narrowed his eyes, and his face was dark. No one knew what he was thinking. From afar, when Yi Xian saw Jianghu dragging Yi Ling, his face turned savage. Who gave you the guts to touch my sister? When Jianghu saw Yi Xian, his face changed. He quickly looked at Yi Lang, and was about to speak. At this moment, Yi Xian leaped in front of him like a ferocious tiger. Before the latter could react, Yi Xian's fist landed on his face. Bang! Jianghu's head spun, and he stumbled and fell. Yi Lang did not stop there, and charged towards Jianghu again. At this time, Yi Lang suddenly roared, Yi Xian, he's my man, how dare you? Yi Xian suddenly stepped on Jianghu's chest. Pooh! Jianghu spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Yi Lang's face turned ugly, while Yi Xian lifted his head to look at him, asking savagely, your man? As he spoke, he stomped on Jianghu's face. Jianghu's face turned into a bloody mess, as he screamed, Prince, save me. Yi Xian did not care about Jianghu, as he walked to Yi Ling's side. Seeing Yi Ling's state, Yi Xian felt as though his heart was being sliced by a knife. He clenched his fists, and his entire body trembled. When Yi Ling saw Yi Xian, her tears flowed, brother, it hurts, it hurts. Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression turned savage. In the next instant, he charged in front of Jianghu, and kicked Jianghu's head. Pung! Chapter 1560. Group Fight. As soon as Yi Xian gave the order, all the experts from the undying imperial clan charged towards Mu Xiaodao. The mysterious woman was at the front. Only she could block Mu Xiaodao's flying daggers. Mu Xiaodao's first thought was to flee when she saw so many people charging at her. There were too many people. She couldn't beat them. She was very clear about her own strength. If it was a one-on-one fight, she wouldn't be afraid of anyone. But the problem was that they were ganging up on her. There were too many of them. Mu Xiaodao was just about to flee when the holy sage fighting with Higashi Yasushi suddenly said, "Guardian, you can't run." If Mu Xiaodao ran now, they would be slaughtered. Mu Xiaodao was speechless. Why was this old man so old-fashioned? Didn't he see how many people there were? Suddenly, a voice rang out in Mu Xiaodao's mind. A moment later, Mu Xiaodao took a step forward. She opened her palm and a flying dagger appeared in her hand. In the next moment, she wielded the flying dagger with one hand and fiercely slashed forward. Chi! A saber light swept out like a scorching sun. The world trembled. The saber light drowned the mysterious woman and the others who were charging at the front. But in the next moment, the mysterious woman broke through the saber light, charged at Mu Xiaodao, and punched. Mu Xiaodao's expression was cold. She took a step forward and slashed down again. Boom! As the saber slashed down, the mysterious woman instantly retreated thousands of feet away. She was still inferior to Mu Xiaodao in a head-on fight. After retreating, Mu Xiaodao wanted to continue attacking. But at this moment, she suddenly turned her head and saw that Yi Xian was charging at the Universal Enforcers. Seeing this scene, Mu Xiaodao's face darkened. The Universal Enforcers weren't a match for Yi Xian at all. If they were ganging up on Yi Xian, then Yi Xian wouldn't be able to do anything to them. But the problem was that there were people by Yi Xian's side. Not only were they not weaker than the Universal Enforcers, but they also outnumbered them. How could the Universal Enforcers stop them? As soon as Yi Xian rushed in, he started killing indiscriminately. Because behind Yi Xian, there were 19 assassins that were like shadows. These 19 people were inseparable from Yi Xian. With these 19 people following Yi Xian, the Cosmic Order Enforcers simply couldn't get close to Yi Xian. Mu Xiaodao opened his palm and a flying knife suddenly flew out. In the distance, the expression of Yi Xian, who was fighting, suddenly changed. He was about to turn around, but at this time, the 19 people suddenly appeared in front of him. The 19 people simultaneously pulled out the daggers at their waists and slashed forward. 19 blade lights directly slashed at the flying dagger. Boom! The blade light shattered and the 19 people were sent flying. However, in the process of being sent flying, the bodies of the 19 people suddenly became illusory. In the next moment, the 19 people silently appeared behind Yi Xian. He actually blocked it. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian was extremely shocked in his heart. The strength of these 19 people was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Mu Xiaodao frowned as well. She hadn't expected that the 19 people would actually be able to block this attack of hers. She was about to attack again when a flame suddenly charged in front of her. It was the mysterious woman. Mu Xiaodao looked at the mysterious woman, and the flying knife in her hand suddenly flew out. Hiss! A tearing sound suddenly resounded. Bang! The flame was directly slashed apart, and the powerful force blasted the mysterious woman flying again. Mu Xiaodao didn't pay any attention to the mysterious woman, and she directly transformed into a blade light that slashed at the distant Yi Xian. Who did she want to kill the most? It was Yi Xian. Since she, Mu Xiaodao, was born, this was the first time she wanted to kill someone so much. When he noticed Mu Xiaodao charging over, Yi Xian immediately turned around. He held the sword in his right hand as he took a step forward, and then he slashed with his sword. This sword slashed directly at the blade light. Rumble. An expanse of sword light shattered, and Yi Xian was directly blasted away. Mu Xiaodao was about to follow up with another attack when the 19 people suddenly appeared in front of her. Mu Xiaodao's eyes flashed with malevolence. Scram! With that, she fiercely swung the flying knife in her hand. Hiss! An expanse of blade light swept out. And at this moment, the 19 people suddenly became illusory. At this moment, the 19 people directly fused together, forming an illusory figure. This illusory figure suddenly drew his knife and slashed. Slash! It looked like one slash, but in reality, it was 19 slashes. As the blade light descended, the surrounding space was directly annihilated. Rumble. With this slash, the blade light in front of Mu Xiaodao was directly slashed apart. At the same time, Mu Xiaodao was directly blasted hundreds of meters away. After stopping, Mu Xiaodao was somewhat in disbelief. She looked into the distance. At this moment, the illusory figure had already returned behind Yi Xian. However, at this moment, there were 19 people again. Mu Xiaodao looked at the 19 people with a rare trace of seriousness in her eyes. The undying imperial clan actually had experts of this level. Moreover, these people were clearly not the top experts of the undying imperial clan. This clan had some tricks up their sleeves. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly turned around. At this moment, the group of cosmic keepers of order had all been killed. Although over 100 cosmic keepers of order were powerful, compared to the undying clan, their numbers were far too few. They were not a match for them at all. At this moment, more and more experts surrounded Mu Xiaodao. Obviously, they wanted to kill Mu Xiaodao. Mu Xiaodao's expression was calm. She opened her palm, and a flying knife appeared in her hand. She looked at the distant Yi Xian and smiled. Want to gang up on me? Dream on. My people are here. As soon as she finished speaking, countless bolts of lightning suddenly appeared in the sky. At the same time, a terrifying pressure crushed down from the starry sky. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian slightly narrowed his eyes. At this moment, Higashi Yasuharu suddenly called out from afar, "Get into formation." As soon as he finished speaking, the experts of the undying imperial clan retreated. The 30,000 Dao soldiers were in front, the 3,600 feather gods were behind, the 1,000 undying blood cavalry were on the side, and the 19 mysterious experts were closely following behind Yi Xian. At this moment, the cry of a sword suddenly rang out in the distance. Yi Xian looked up and saw a bloody head falling to the ground. It was the head of the Universe Enforcer Commander Mu Xiu. And the person who killed him was Mu Nianyan. At this moment, Mu Nianyan stood in the starry sky with a long sword in her hand, like a god of war. Nian Nian. The fourth sword in the human world. Actually, if she were in the fifth dimension, she would be even stronger. This was because she was the Tendo of the fifth dimension. In that place, she could rely on the entire fifth dimension. However, she basically didn't need any external help. At this moment, another cry of a sword rang out. Everyone turned to look and saw a head slowly falling from the distant horizon. It was the white-robed man who had fought with Tu. The white-robed man's eyes were still wide open as his head fell to the ground. He had never expected that he would be killed just like that. In the sky, Tu turned to look at the distant Mu Xiaodao. The sword in her hand was trembling. Mu Nianyan was also looking at Mu Xiaodao. Both women's eyes were filled with killing intent. At this moment, the space in the sky suddenly split open. A moment later, a middle-aged man walked out. He wore a purple robe and held an ancient scroll in his hand. The moment the middle-aged man walked out, the divine lightning in the starry sky suddenly quieted down and formed a huge lightning net that covered the entire starry sky. Divine Word Master. At the same time, another man walked out. This man wore a black robe and an iron mask. The Dark Hall's Hall Master. Along with the appearance of the Dark Hall's Hall Master, many afterimages suddenly appeared in the starry sky. Soon, these afterimages solidified. They were all mysterious black-clothed people, and there were hundreds of them. Each of these people held a blood-red sickle in their hands. Hundreds of people exuded a sinister aura, giving people an extremely uncomfortable feeling. The divine oracle's gaze fell on the bodies of the keepers of order. After a moment of silence, he suddenly took a step forward. He flipped open the ancient book in his hand and began to chant. Gradually, countless bolts of lightning began to wriggle in the starry sky. As they gazed at the bolts of lightning, the expressions of everyone here had become solemn. Yi Xian's expression was also extremely solemn. The power of these thunderbolts was only second to the blood lightning that little air had created previously, but at this moment, there were so many thunderbolts. Down below, Higashi Yasushi suddenly said, "Immortal blood formation." As soon as he finished speaking, countless strands of blood energy surged out from the spatial passageway, and then an enormous blood formation appeared above them. In the sky, the divine word master suddenly said, "Descend." Boom! Countless bolts of lightning rained down. In an instant, it was as if doomsday had arrived. Boom, 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 boom. Thunderous booms resounded above everyone's heads as the blood formation grew dimmer and dimmer under the bombardment of the divine lightning. He couldn't block it. Right at this moment, Higashi Yasushi suddenly shot into the sky and headed straight for the divine pronoun. The divine pronoun glanced at Higashi Yasushi, "Imprison." Bang! Higashi Yasushi seemed as if he'd been frozen on the spot, and then a strange scene appeared. The space around Higashi Yasushi actually started to shrink layer by layer. No, it wasn't just the space here, countless other spaces were appearing incessantly around Higashi Yasushi. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman by Yi Xian's side spoke softly, "The space of a myriad of worlds." He's using the space of a myriad of worlds to imprison the patriarch. As she spoke, she glanced at the divine pronoun, and there was a trace of a solemn expression in her eyes. What terrifying attainments in the Tao of space. Yi Xian was about to attack, but the mysterious woman stopped him. "There's no need. Don't underestimate her." She just finished speaking when the space around Higashi Yasushi was suddenly obliterated inch by inch, and it didn't take long for the space of a myriad of worlds to shatter. A ferocious expression flashed through Higashi Yasushi's eyes as she charged at the divine pronoun again. The divine pronoun's expression was calm as he spoke softly, "Slash." Hiss. Hiss. In an instant, countless strands of sword energy suddenly appeared around Higashi Yasushi. Yi Xian's expression changed at the sight of this. All of these strands of sword energy were actually ordinary swords. Higashi Yasushi's expression changed as well. She immediately stopped moving, raised her arms horizontally, and then blocked the attacks in front of her. Break. Bang. An expanse of sword energy erupted in front of her, and then Higashi Yasushi was blasted back to where she stood just moments ago. Moreover, her arms were covered in injuries, but they were repairing themselves. There was a trace of seriousness in Higashi Yasushi's eyes as she gazed at the divine pronoun. Meanwhile, the blood formation in the sky suddenly shattered. Countless bolts of lightning descended in a straight line. Mu Niannian gazed at two, and then both of them exchanged glances. A moment later, two rays of sword energy shot into the sky, and then countless strands of sword energy covered the entire starry sky. It was a head-on slash. The divine pronoun frowned slightly when he saw that they were actually able to resist his technique head-on, and then he suddenly said after a short moment of silence, "Open." Bang! An expanse of space behind him suddenly split open, and then a strand of mysterious energy surged into that expanse of space. It didn't take long for numerous powerful auras to emerge from the depths of that expanse of space. Many. He had forcefully opened up the cosmic barrier and established a transmission array. Clearly, countless experts were coming over through his transmission array. Down below, Nanxing suddenly appeared beside Higashi Yasushi. Nanxing's expression was extremely unsightly. "Patriarch, there's a large number of mysterious experts rushing towards our world. These mysterious experts' identities and strength are unknown, because our spies have all been killed." Higashi Yasushi stared fixedly at that expanse of space. A moment later, she roared angrily, "Prepare for battle. Fight!" All around, countless experts from the Undying Emperor clan roared angrily in unison. At this moment, powerful auras were rushing over from the spatial passageway leading to the nine-dimensional universe. These were experts from the Undying Emperor clan who had come to reinforce them. It was clear that Higashi Yasushi had already called for reinforcements from the very beginning. At this moment, the divine pronoun suddenly pointed at the spatial passageway leading to the nine-dimensional universe, Dao-E. Seal. Bang. A powerful force directly sealed the spatial passageway. Higashi Yasushi's expression changed drastically when she saw this. She turned around and threw a punch. Bang. The spatial black hole did not budge at all. That was because there was an endless stream of spatial energy sealing that spatial passage. The Undying Imperial clan's reinforcements would not be able to arrive. Chapter 1561. Higashi Yasushi's expression turned cold when he saw that the reinforcements had been sealed. At this time, several experts suddenly appeared behind the Divine Word Master. These experts were all clad in black armor, wielding long spears and wearing black helmets. There were a lot of people, no less than 60,000. Their leader was a middle-aged man with disheveled hair. The middle-aged man had a ferocious look on his face, and he held a chipped broadsword in his hand. One look was enough to tell that he was not a kind person. With the appearance of these 60,000 people, the scale of the battle tilted towards the Cosmos God Court. Because now, the Cosmos God Court had more people. The middle-aged man holding the large blade looked down at the people from the Undying Emperor clan and grinned. This is the number one clan in the 10,000 worlds, the Undying Emperor clan? In the distance, the Divine Word Master glanced at the man. Fierce blade, do not underestimate the enemy. The man named Hong Dao laughed and said, "Understood." As he spoke, he licked the corner of his mouth, his eyes filled with ferocity. At this time, Nan Xing's voice sounded in Dongli Jing's mind. This man is called Han Dao, a divine general of the great Xing dynasty in the heaven domain. He is in charge of 100,000 elites of the great Xing dynasty. His soldiers are also known as the fierce soldiers. Each of them is fierce and brave. Heaven domain. Fujiwara slowly closed his eyes. It was a star domain that was relatively unfamiliar to the Undying Imperial clan. If the Undying Imperial clan wanted to go to the heaven realm, even if it was an expert of her level, it would take at least 100 years. It was too far away. But this time, the Divine Word Master actually used such a short period of time to teleport these powerhouses over. This was not a normal kind of horror. Higashi Yasushi shot a glance at the Divine Pronoun Master, her eyes growing more solemn. The current situation was extremely unfavorable for the Undead Emperor clan, because the experts of the Undead Emperor clan were temporarily unable to provide support. At this moment, the Divine Word Master suddenly looked towards the distant starry sky. Moon Yin and Tu were still blocking the divine lightning. Under the joint efforts of the two women, the divine lightning slowly disappeared. After a moment of silence, the divine pronoun looked down at Higashi Yasushi. Kill. He did not ask for peace, nor did he say any nonsense. The Undying Imperial clan had massacred hundreds of law enforcers. There was no way to resolve this matter peacefully. Even if the Undying Emperor clan wanted to ask for peace, the Cosmos God Court would definitely not agree to it. Both sides were already in a life-or-death situation. Following the Divine Word Master's order, Jian Dao suddenly burst into laughter. Wolf pups, charge for this father. Let these remote natives experience the might of my great Xing dynasty. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged downwards with his broadsword in hand. Behind him, 60,000 people dove in unison. Meanwhile, the Divine Word Master suddenly closed his eyes and began to chant. A mysterious force gradually enveloped the 60,000 plus people, and their auras suddenly skyrocketed. His strength had increased greatly. Fujiwara's expression instantly sank when she witnessed this scene. because she noticed that the strength of these 60,000 plus cultivators had increased by at least 40%. Dong Lijing did not think too much about it. She looked to the undying imperial clan's Dao soldiers in the distance. Fight! The Dao soldier commander suddenly walked out. He pointed his spear at the sky. Fight! Fight! Tens of thousands of Dao soldiers roared in unison. In the next moment, tens of thousands of Dao soldiers soared into the sky and met the great Qing dynasty's experts head-on. The moment they charged out, the divine feather guards behind them suddenly attacked. Thousands of divine arrows pierced through the sky and into the crowd. In an instant, some experts fell from the sky, but not many. The thousands of arrows only killed a few dozen people. At this moment, the undying blood cavalry suddenly charged out in unison. Their charge caused the sky to change color. In the distance, Jian Dao suddenly turned to look at the cavalry and said fiercely, "Stop them." As soon as he finished speaking, thousands of people beside him charged towards the cavalry. However, as soon as the two sides clashed, the undying blood cavalry scattered the thousands of people. Hundreds of corpses fell from the sky. Unstoppable. How terrifying was the cavalry's charge. Although there were only 1,000 cavalry, when they charged, it was as if they could crush the sky and earth. Seeing this, Jian Dao's expression turned ugly. He had underestimated the undying imperial clan. At this moment, he could not care less. He suddenly raised his saber and roared, "Kill!" Boom! A red light suddenly swept out from his body. Killing intent. Powerful killing intent swept out in all directions. Wherever the saber passed, it tore apart everything. Soon, the two sides were engaged in a fierce battle in the starry sky. Although the undying imperial clan had fewer people, Jian Dao's side did not have the slightest advantage. The two sides were evenly matched. Below, Yi Xian suddenly looked at the 19 people behind him. Attack! The 19 people did not hesitate and disappeared on the spot. However, the instant they disappeared, the Dark Hall's master suddenly said, "Stop them." As soon as he said that, several blood-red rays of light suddenly appeared not far away. Boom, 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 the dozen or so people were directly blocked by a group of mysterious experts. Dark Hall's assassins. Both sides were assassins. The two sides did not waste any words and immediately started fighting. The Divine Word Master looked around and was silent for a moment. Then, he opened his palm and lightly waved it. A huge teleportation array appeared not far away to his right. Soon, the huge teleportation array began to tremble violently. It was calling for help again. Below, Dong Lijing turned to look at the spatial passageway that led to the 9th dimension. She had to forcefully open the spatial barrier so that the experts of the 9th dimension could come to her aid. Higashi Yasushi acted as soon as he thought of this and was about to attack. However, the Divine Tongue Master suddenly said, "Stop her." The Dark Hall's master suddenly disappeared and went straight for Dong Lijing. Dong Lijing suddenly said, "Third sister, stop her." Below, the mysterious woman directly charged towards the Dark Hall's master. The Divine Word Master looked at the leisurely Mu Xiaodao and said, "Stop her." As soon as he finished speaking, he felt slightly regretful. Because his tone was wrong. As expected, Mu Xiaodao looked coldly at the Divine Word Master and said, "Are you ordering me around?" In the Cosmos God Court, the guardians of the universe only listened to the laws of the universe. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that this was Mu Xiaodao. This indescribably stupid woman. The Divine Word Master immediately bowed and said, "Miss Mu, I was disrespectful just now. Please forgive me." Mu Xiaodao grunted coldly, and then she turned to look at Yi Xian and said, "I'm going to hit him." She had no other thoughts right now, and all she wanted was to beat Yi Xian to death. The Divine Word Master hesitated for a moment and said, "Miss Mu, please consider the bigger picture." Mu Xiaodao spoke furiously, "Big my ass. I'm going to beat that bitch to death." As soon as she finished speaking, she charged towards Yi Xian. The reason she hadn't attacked earlier was actually because she was waiting. She was waiting for someone to tie down the other experts. But now, all the experts here who had the ability to stop her had been tied down. Yi Xian was all alone. Yi Xian's face sank when he saw Mu Xiaodao charge towards him. Damn it. She's targeting me. He didn't attack, and he withdrew a box instead. Mu Xiaodao's expression changed when she saw this, and she immediately stopped. Mu Xiaodao gazed at Yi Xian and said, "What's that?" She was extremely fearful of Yi Xian's trump cards. The sword Qi from before, the sword Dao Will from before. She realized that this bitch had more than just a few trump cards. Yi Xian gazed at Mu Xiaodao and said, "Take a guess." Mu Xiaodao spoke coldly, "Are you trying to scare me?" Yi Xian chuckled and said, "Then come over here." Mu Xiaodao thought for a moment, and then she gazed at the nearby Divine Word Master. The Divine Word Master said in a low voice, "Miss Mu, stop the undying Imperial clan's patriarch first." At this moment, cracks had appeared on the spatial passageway that led to the 9th dimension from Dongli Jing's ferocious attacks. Mu Xiaodao frowned slightly and said, "Why don't you stop him yourself?" The corners of the Divine Word Master's mouth twitched. "Miss Mu, I have to maintain this teleportation formation, control the divine lightning to keep those two swordsmen busy, and I have to constantly strengthen the sealed spatial passageway." Actually, he was very angry in his heart. Damn it. Was this Mu Xiaodao sent by them? He didn't dare to scold her or fight her. Why did the laws of the universe send this idiot to capture the people of misfortune? Wasn't she sent to cause trouble? No. As if thinking of something, the Divine Word Master's expression suddenly changed. He looked at Mu Xiaodao and said, "Miss Mu, you didn't come here by yourself, did you?" Mu Xiaodao blinked innocently and said, "What do you mean by myself?" Seeing this, the Divine Word Master's expression sank. This woman wasn't sent by the laws of the universe. She definitely came here by herself. Thinking of this, the Divine Word Master's expression sank even more. Without the restrictions of the laws of the universe, this woman could ascend to the heavens. Thinking of this, the Divine Word Master opened his palm and was about to recite an incantation to report this matter to the Cosmos God Court. At this moment, Mu Xiaodao suddenly said, "If you dare speak nonsense, I will hack you to death." Saying this, she opened her palm and a flying knife appeared in it. The Divine Word Master's expression froze. At this moment, his heart was crumbling. How could there be such a strange woman? Was this woman really not from the other side? Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly transformed into a ray of sword light and charged towards the experts of the Great Qing dynasty. Instant kill. The sword light lit up and a head flew into the air. Yi Xian was about to attack again when a flying knife suddenly slashed towards him. Yi Xian's expression changed and he swiftly turned around and slashed down with his sword. For domains. Boom. Yi Xian was sent flying. After sending Yi Xian flying with a single strike, Mu Xiaodao was about to attack again. Right at this moment, the cosmos barrier seal in the distance suddenly shattered. In the next moment, a furious roar suddenly sounded out from the spatial teleportation channel. "Who dares to bully the young master of my undying imperial clan? Who dares? Who dares?" Countless experts roared in unison from within the spatial passageway. Following that, countless experts charged out of the spatial passageway. Countless powerful auras caused the starry sky to tremble. At the same time, the space around the starry sky suddenly trembled. In the next moment, space split open and 10 old men walked out. Elders of the 10 realms. The Grand Elder who led the group roared, "Who dares to bully the young master of the undying imperial clan?" Rumble. Behind the 10 elders, countless experts charged out like a tsunami, causing the starry sky to tremble. "Who dares to bully the young master of the undying imperial clan?" For a time, countless furious roars resounded incessantly from the surroundings. At the same time, a dense mass of experts appeared in the starry sky. All of them had rushed over from the 10 realms. In just a few breaths of time, there were hundreds of thousands of people in the starry sky. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.